Chapter 82. A poor boy who had just gotten out of poverty and started his career actually came to see a land worth hundreds of millions? Such a thing, not to mention the local tycoons present. Even a primary school student with a little common sense would not believe it. This big talk was too funny, wasn't it? Huang Yihu really laughed out loud. The two bosses who accompanied him also laughed, as did their bodyguards. Their laughter was full of sarcasm and contempt. When they all laughed enough, Charlotte said, "What? Only you are allowed to see the land. Can I see the land?" He looked at Liang Xiao and said, "Xiao, I remember this land hasn't been auctioned yet, right?" Liang Xiao also cooperated. She said, "Yes, this land hasn't been auctioned yet. Anyone can bid." Li Yulan sneered and said, "Mr. Xia, don't be funny. You? I don't think you can even afford the deposit." Charlotte pretended to be surprised. "Do I need to pay a deposit to bid for government land?" "Huh." This time, even the calmest and most astute Li Yulan and Huang Yihu's group laughed. The boss, surnamed Zhou, said, "Is this boy so poor that he's crazy?" The boss, surnamed Wang, said, "He's probably crazy. This land is so good that it must be worth hundreds of millions." "Does he look like he's worth hundreds of millions?" "The domestic car on the side of the road is probably his. How dare he bid for a land worth hundreds of millions by driving a domestic beggar's car?" T. Li Yulan said, "Boy, did you hear that? No one believes you." Just now, she was still a little polite and called him Mr. Xia, but now she didn't even have the slightest politeness and directly called him a boy. Charlotte smiled and said, "Worth hundreds of millions? I think it's only worth 1 or 2 million. You need to spend hundreds of millions to buy this land. I can do it for 1 or 2 million." Huang Yihu and the others laughed again, and the previous tension inexplicably disappeared. In their opinion, Charlotte seemed to be specially sent by God to perform a skit, to be funny. "You don't believe me?" Charlotte looked at Huang Yihu, his gaze turning cold. "Huang Yihu, I'm telling you, don't even think about this piece of land. I'm going to use it to build a factory." Huang Yihu snorted coldly. "Kid, don't think that you can do this just because you have 2 friends. No one else can get this piece of land except me." "Huang Yihu, I'm not afraid to tell you that no one is bidding on this piece of land. Even if there is, only I, Huang Yihu, will raise my placard." Charlotte said, "How about we make a bet? If you can get this land, I'll kneel down and kowtow to you 3 times. If I get it, you will kneel in front of my friend's grave and kowtow 3 times." "All right, I'll bet with you." Huang Yihu agreed to the bet. "Word or no proof? Let's write a contract." Charlotte said, "I can write a contract, but I have to add 1 more." Huang Yihu said, "If I get this land, you have to kowtow to me in front of Miss Gu." Charlotte said, "Okay, I agree." Charlotte understood the purpose of Huang Yihu's mentioning Gu Qian at this time. There were 3 purposes. First, it was to let Boss Zhou and Boss Wang know who was behind him, so that Boss Zhou and Boss Wang could rest assured. Second, it was to frighten him and let him understand who he was against. The last purpose was to please Gu Qian, because if he knelt down to Huang Yihu in front of Gu Qian, who had lost face here, would be very happy. Without these 3 benefits, would Huang Yihu bet with Charlotte? Obviously not. Boss Zhou took out a pen and paper from his briefcase. Charlotte wrote 2 gambling contracts with the same content, and then signed his name. Huang Yihu also signed the gambling contract, and then threw one of them to Charlotte. Charlotte put away the gambling contract. "I will make you honor it." The corner of Huang Yihu's mouth revealed a hint of a sarcastic smile. "Kid, this piece of land will be auctioned in a week. You should first gather 50 million yuan as a deposit before you talk to me about honoring the bet. I will choose a lively place and wait for you to kneel down and kowtow to me." "Let's wait and see," Charlotte said, and then left the 13th plot with Liang Xiao. Watching Charlotte and Liang Xiao walk to the Great Wall H6 parked on the side of the road, Huang Yihu spat on the ground. "Damn, I really wanted to shoot him just now. Hubby, why are you still so angry? You're a legitimate businessman now. You can just leave the fighting to your subordinates. Why do you have to do it yourself?" Li Yulan said. The couple's voice was not loud, but they deliberately said it for Boss Zhou and Boss Wang to hear. Forget it. Don't let that brat affect our mood. Huang Yihu changed the topic. Boss Zhou, Boss Wang. Let's talk about the cooperation. How much are you going to invest? The group chatted as they walked. Only Li Yulan looked back at Charlotte and Liang Xiao. There was a hint of worry in her eyes. After getting in the car, Liang Xiao said, Lazy, why did you make such a bet with Huang Yihu? Before this piece of land, many developers have their eyes on it. Didn't you hear? Just the deposit to participate in the auction is 50 million yuan. If your two friends can't help you get this piece of land, are you really going to kneel down and kowtow to Huang Yihu? Charlotte smiled. You think too much. I think too much. Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte in confusion. Charlotte said, people like Huang Yihu are not trustworthy at all. Even if he loses, he won't honor the bet between us. You know that even if you win, he will go back on his word. So why did you still bet with him? Liang Xiao was even more confused. Charlotte smiled and said, for the same reason. If I lose, I won't honor the bet. Liang Xiao shrugged and said with a bitter smile, I'm really confused by you. Since both of you won't honor the bet, what's the point of betting? Charlotte said, what I want is the bet with Huang Yihu's signature. It's equivalent to a piece of waste paper. What do you want it for? You'll know in the future. Anyway, I'm not bored to bet with him. In the end, he will have to pay the price. Let's start with this bet. Xiao Lei's lips curled into a mysterious smile. Forget it. I don't want to know these messy things. I came here today to persuade you to give up your career and learn Wing Chun from my dad. Now it seems that I don't have to mention this. Liang Xiao looked a little disappointed. Xiao Lei started the engine and slowly turned the car into the driveway as he said, Isn't this good? I'll come to the boxing club to learn when I'm free. I can keep my career and learn Wing Chun well. Liang Xiao said, what you've learned is just superficial. You haven't even seen the real Wing Chun. Charlotte was slightly stunned. Your dad doesn't teach? Liang Xiao said, my dad teaches Wing Chun to strengthen the body. My ancestor, Yin Wing Chun, founded Wing Chun. Of course, there are ancestral skills. You know, there are rules in Wulin. Some sex-unique skills are even passed on to males and not females. They don't even teach their own daughters, let alone students like you. Your family's Wing Chun Kung Fu has been passed down from generation to generation. Charlotte didn't believe it. Liang Jingchun only had one daughter, Liang Xiao. If he didn't teach her, then there was no one to teach him. Liang Xiao wrinkled her nose and said, I won't tell you. Xiao Lei smiled. Then tell me, how can I get your dad to pass it on to me? Liang Xiao said, become my father's disciple, and then he can teach you the real Wing Chun. Charlotte said, I actually want to learn, but if I have to choose between learning Wing Chun and my career, I will definitely choose my career. I have a few workers who rely on me to make a living. I can't leave them alone. You just love to think about others, but you don't think about yourself much. Speaking of this, Liang Xiao smiled. However, it is because you are such a person that I want my father to accept you as his disciple. If you have a bad character, my father won't accept you even if you kneel in front of him for 3 days and 3 nights. Charlotte sighed softly. That's it for the time being. I don't have the luck to be your father's disciple in this life. I can only take time to practice. Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte and was silent for a long time before she said, Not necessarily. If I can persuade my father to change his traditional idea and let you learn Wing Chun from him while taking care of your career and becoming his disciple, would you be willing to be my father's disciple? Charlotte thought for a moment and said, Of course I would. Master Liang is a respectable person. I will treat him as my father. Liang Xiao's cheeks suddenly flushed. What are you talking about? Only then did Charlotte realize that his words could be misunderstood. He explained, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. My parents are no longer around. What I mean is if I acknowledge Master Liang as my master, I will treat him as if he were my father. Okay, I didn't ask you to explain. Liang Xiao said, but I have a condition. You have a condition? What is it? Liang Xiao said, You know, I came back because my father is old. I quit my job in the United States. I am still unemployed here. You are in the stage of starting your own business and lack an assistant. Let me be your assistant to the president. What do you think? Assistant to the president? Charlotte laughed. What kind of president am I? No matter how small I'm a manufacturing company is, you are still the president. Well, if you say I'm the president, then I'm the president. But don't you feel wronged for a senior talent like you to work in my small factory? Just say yes or no. I don't want to be polite with you. Liang Xiao had a bold and straightforward temperament of a woman who practiced martial arts. Charlotte stretched out a hand and said, "Welcome to Lima Manufacturing Company. President Xia." Liang Xiao smiled and shook hand with Charlotte. Charlotte said, "Don't call me President Xia. It sounds awkward." Liang Xiao said, "You will get used to it in the future. As a manager of an enterprise, you should have your dignity. I am your assistant to the president. If I call you lazy, others will think that your management ability is not good." Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "That's true. Well, let's go for a drink. Tell me more about how your former bosses manage their enterprises and employees. I lack experience in this area." "Okay, junior brother," Liang Xiao said. This was the first time that Liang Xiao called Charlotte junior brother. In her opinion, it seemed that her father, Liang Zhengchun, would accept Charlotte as his last disciple. Chapter 83. Master, please have some tea. In the boxing gym, Charlotte knelt on the ground and raised a cup of black tea high above his head. Liang Zhengchun took the tea with a serious expression and took a sip. Although his expression was serious, he couldn't help but show joy between his eyebrows. For a martial artist like him, a disciple like Charlotte was really hard to come by in 100 years. It was pure coincidence and luck that he met him. There was a round of applause in the boxing gym. The new and old students were happy for Liang Zhengchun and Charlotte. Lu Sheng also applauded, but the smile on his face seemed a little forced. Liang Xiao held a plate with many red envelopes on it and gave them to each student. There was not much money in the red envelopes, only 100 yuan. However, this was the custom of Foshan people. For good luck, they didn't care about the amount of money. Liang Xiao also sent a red envelope to Lu Sheng and whispered, "Monk, I know you're a little unhappy, but some things can't be forced. It's good that you've thought it through." Lu Sheng said, "I'm fine. Xia Lei is stronger than me. He has been learning Wing Chun for a few days, and I have been learning Wing Chun for a few years, but I can't beat him. He is the most suitable person to inherit Master Lei's mantle. I rarely admire people, but Charlotte is one of them." "Well, it's good that you can think that way." Liang Xiao smiled. Charlotte kowtowed to Liang Zhengchun 3 times and then said, "Master." Liang Zhengchun put down the teacup and helped Charlotte up. He finally couldn't hide the smile on his face. He said with a smile, "I have a word for you. Be a good man and do things well." Charlotte nodded and said, "I'll remember, Master." Liang Zhengchun patted Charlotte on the shoulder and said, "Once you enter the door of Wing Chun, you are a member of Wing Chun. If you use what I teach to do evil and harm people, I won't forgive you." Charlotte nodded again and thought to himself, "Master is usually not so long-winded. Why is he so long-winded today?" Liang Zhengchun moved closer to Charlotte's ear and lowered his voice. "Xiao said that she works at your company. Is that true?" Charlotte continued nodding. "Yes, it's true." Liang Zhengchun was silent for 2 seconds before he said, "Take good care of her. If any shady man approaches her and has ideas about her, beat him up." Xiao Lei nodded after a slight hesitation. Most men who raised their daughters were like this. They were afraid that their daughters would be cheated by bad men. It was not strange for Liang Zhengchun to have such thoughts. Liang Xiao walked over after giving out the red packets. "What are you guys talking about?" Liang Zhengchun whispered, "Don't tell her." Charlotte was also quick-witted and said, "Master is teaching me Kung Fu." Liang Xiao smiled. "Seriously, you guys still have a long way to go. Let's have hot pot tonight. What do you guys say?" Before Charlotte said yes, Lu Sheng said loudly, "Okay, today is Junior Charlotte's good day. Let's let Junior Charlotte treat us, okay?" "Sure." The students cheered. Charlotte said with a smile, "Okay, it's my treat. Don't stand on ceremony. Eat and drink to your heart's content. The boxing gym was filled with laughter. After eating hot pot, Charlotte drank a lot of alcohol and couldn't drive. Liang Xiao drove his car and sent him to the neighborhood. Which floor do you live on? Liang Xiao helped Charlotte out of the car and didn't know where to go in the neighborhood full of buildings. Charlotte pointed to the stairwell in front of the car and said vaguely, 6th floor. He was really drunk. He didn't even know which floor he lived on. I'll help you go home. Liang Xiao helped Charlotte to the stairwell. When they approached the stairwell, Lu Ying saw a woman eating a watermelon on the balcony on the 1st floor. She was staring at her and Charlotte with a strange look in her eyes. She thought to herself, this woman is so strange. Doesn't she know that it's rude to stare at people like this? But just as she was thinking about this, the woman suddenly threw away the watermelon and went back into the house. Liang Xiao helped Charlotte into the stairwell. The woman suddenly opened the door and walked out. She looked at her and Charlotte with a smile. She stood in the middle of the stairs and had no intention of giving way. Miss, please let me through, Liang Xiao said politely. She didn't know that this woman was called Jiang Rui, and she didn't know about the ambiguous relationship between this woman and Charlotte. Io, isn't this our family's lazy? Jiang Rui spoke and pretended to meet by chance in the stairwell. Your family's lazy? Liang Xiao asked curiously. Who are you? Didn't he tell you about me? No, Liang Xiao said. Jiang Rui stepped forward and gently slapped Charlotte's head. You brat, you only know how to drink. You didn't even tell me that you made a new friend. Who hit me? Charlotte muttered and then closed his eyes again. Liang Xiao thought, is this woman Lei Zi's girlfriend? Jiang Rui said again, I'm sorry. Our family's Lei Zi has caused you trouble. You can leave him to me. I'll take care of him. Liang Xiao was hesitant. Although she suspected that this woman was Charlotte's girlfriend, it was still a guess. She didn't feel at ease leaving Charlotte to a strange woman. Jiang Rui directly held Charlotte's other arm and muttered, You don't know, our family's Lei Zi will make trouble when he's drunk. He will vomit all over people, and he will roll on the floor naked. It's so scary. Liang Xiao obviously didn't expect this situation. She couldn't imagine Charlotte rolling on the carpet naked, but she still didn't let go. Jiang Rui pulled a bit and found that Liang Xiao didn't want to let go at all. She suddenly took out a certificate, opened it, and handed it to Liang Xiao. Look, I'm a police officer. Now you should believe me, right? Liang Xiao found out that Jiang Rui was actually a police officer. Moreover, she was the chief of a regional police station. The worry in her heart suddenly disappeared. She finally let go of her hand. Well, I'll leave him to you to take care of. Please tell him that I've driven his car away. I'll pick him up tomorrow morning. Jiang Rui stretched out her hand. Give me the car key. You can take a taxi back. Liang Xiao was stunned for a moment. Finally, she gave the car key to Jiang Rui and then left gloomily. Who told her to be the chief of the police station? Jiang Rui didn't help Charlotte go to the 2nd floor. Instead, she directly entered her house. She abducted Charlotte just like that. Jiang Rui put Charlotte on the sofa in the living room and then gently hit Charlotte's face. Who is that woman? Don't be noisy. Sleep. Charlotte didn't even want to open his eyes. Humph. Jiang Rui reached out and pinched Charlotte's waist again. You're a womanizer. You have a good childhood sweetheart, but you're still playing around outside. What's so good about that long-legged woman? Snore, snore. Charlotte began to snore. You're sleeping so soundly, you heartless bastard. Jiang Rui scolded him, but there was a smile on her face. She leaned on Charlotte's shoulder and said to herself, You're too bad. You broke into someone's house when you're drunk. What are you trying to do? Snore, snore. Charlotte continued to snore. Jiang Rui's hand moved around on Charlotte's body. Her cheeks became redder and redder. You were so thin when you were a child. You didn't even have any meat on your butt. But now you're so sturdy. Why are you so sturdy? Are you trying to seduce me? I won't be fooled. Charlotte couldn't feel the hand moving around on his body. He was really asleep. Jiang Rui played for a while and then got up. Forget it. I'll go get you a bath and then help you take a bath. Before leaving, she reached out and pinched Charlotte's thigh again. You're playing around outside. I'm still so good to you. Did I owe you anything in my previous life? Charlotte muttered something, but even he couldn't hear it clearly. Jiang Rui giggled and then turned around to go to the bathroom. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. There was also the sound of a woman singing. She was singing the song Little Apple. But at this moment, the door of her house was suddenly opened. A woman in a trench coat walked in and grabbed Charlotte, who was lying on the sofa. Then, she squatted down and pulled Charlotte over her shoulder and walked away. The door was closed silently. The whole process took less than 15 seconds. "You're my little apple." Jiang Rui walked out of the bathroom. Her eyes fell on the sofa. Suddenly, she froze. Where is he? After a while, she rushed out of the door and went to the second floor. Then, she knocked on Charlotte's door. In the room, the woman in the trench coat sprayed a spray into Charlotte's nostrils. Achoo! Charlotte sneezed and then opened his eyes. "Lazy, lazy." Jiang Rui's voice came from outside the door. Charlotte shook his head hard and then saw Long Bing standing in front of him. "Lazy? Are you at home?" Jiang Rui's voice was very anxious. Charlotte seemed to think of something. He replied, "I'm at home. What's the matter?" I want to break up with you." Jiang Rui's voice was heard, and then the sound of her going downstairs. Charlotte smiled bitterly. From childhood to adulthood, Jiang Rui had broken up with him no less than 100 times, but not once was it true. He knew her too well, just like he knew his own palm. After a long silence, Charlotte said, "Why are you here?" "I'm on a mission," Long Bing said. Xiao Lei froze for a moment. "Carry out a mission? It's related to me?" Long Bing nodded. "I'm also very surprised that the target of my mission turned out to be you." Charlotte said, "What's going on?" Long Bing sat down and looked straight at Charlotte. "I couldn't tell you, but I think it doesn't matter if I tell you. Shinjo Industry Group submitted a report, and this report mentioned you. You processed some very important parts for Shinjo Industry Group. They also thought that you could upgrade ordinary machine tools to the advanced level of Europe and America. This matter is very important, and they asked me to investigate everything about you." Long Bing suddenly appeared in front of him. Charlotte was very surprised, but after she said the purpose of her visit, he was not surprised anymore. His cooperation with Shinjo Industry Group seemed to be a cooperation between the two companies, but in fact, it was a cooperation between him and Shinjo Industry Group. He was also very clear that he was of great significance to Shinjo Industry Group in today's technology blockade environment, which was why he dared to use the order to let Shinjo Industry Group get the land for him. However, there were pros and cons to everything. He could use his ability to gain benefits from Shinjo Industry Group, and at the same time, his ability also attracted some people's attention. In that case, it was not strange that Long Bing would appear here to investigate him. Charlotte shrugged. "I'm right in front of you. How do you want to investigate me? Where do you start? Good night," Long Bing said, then got up and walked to the door. "Hello." Charlotte stood up. "You're just going to leave like this?" Long Bing opened the door, and Long Bing closed it. Charlotte looked at the closed door and did not move for several minutes. Why was she always so mysterious? It was hard to fathom. Chapter 84. Who wanted to investigate him? How would Long Bing investigate him? Charlotte couldn't understand these 2 points, but he wasn't worried at all. He thought that his ability was hidden in his eyes, and others couldn't find it at all. As for those mysterious abilities, he himself didn't know why they appeared, so how could Long Bing investigate? Early the next morning, Charlotte called Long Bing, but Long Bing's mobile phone was turned off, and he couldn't get through. He had long been used to this situation and didn't think much about it. He went out after breakfast. He had just walked 2 steps out of the corridor when a watermelon skin whizzed straight at his head. Hearing the wind, he quickly squatted down, and the watermelon skin whizzed past his scalp. As soon as he turned his head, he saw Jiang Rui standing on the balcony. Jiang Rui angrily grabbed a piece of watermelon skin and threw it at him again. Charlotte jumped away and said, "Rui, what are you doing? Did I provoke you so early in the morning?" "You didn't provoke me, but I'm happy to hit you. What can you do?" Jiang Rui waved her hand, and the third piece of watermelon skin flew over. This time, her hand lost its aim. The watermelon skin hit the wall next to her and the watermelon juice splashed on her face and chest. Her snow-white chest and red watermelon juice were very eye-catching. Charlotte laughed and said, "You see, you've done bad things and God wants to punish you. It's none of your business." Jiang Rui didn't know how to throw watermelon skin anymore. She tentatively asked, "Who was that woman last night?" Charlotte said, "Her name is Liang Xiao, my master's daughter and my assistant." "Your master?" Charlotte made a Wing Chun hand gesture and said with a smile, "You don't know yet, but I'm learning Wing Chun now. My master is the direct descendant of Yin Yong Chun, and his name is Liang Zheng Chun." "Show off." Jiang Rui curled her lips. "That woman is your master's daughter. She should be your senior sister, right? How did she become your assistant?" "He is a top student studying business in the United States. It is my luck that he is willing to help me start business," Charlotte said. Jiang Rui suddenly lifted her foot, picked up the slipper she had taken off, and threw it at Charlotte. Charlotte hurriedly dodged. "Are you sick? Why did you hit me again?" Jiang Rui scolded. "You're looking for such a young and beautiful assistant. I know you're up to no good. You're so shameless. Don't tell anyone that you know me." Charlotte. Jiang Rui suddenly remembered something. "Oh, right, I'm breaking off all ties with you. I don't want to talk to you. Go away, go away." Charlotte shrugged speechlessly, turned around, and walked toward his Great Wall, H6. "Hey," Jiang Rui said fiercely, "give me back the slipper. Didn't you not want to talk to me? You still want me to give you the slipper." Although he said so, Charlotte still picked up Jiang Rui's slipper and threw it back to her. Jiang Rui put on the slipper and said angrily, "I'll tell Xiaoxue you've become bad." Charlotte smiled bitterly, turned around, and walked toward his car. "Bring me some food when you come back tonight. My fridge is empty. Buy more beef, mutton, red wine, etc. You can pay for it first." Jiang Rui's voice came from behind. Charlotte. This was the breaking off of Jiang Rui. In the past 20 years, this style had never changed. When Charlotte drove to Lei Ma's studio, Liang Xiao was already chatting with Shou Xiaohong and others in the studio. "Boss Lei, when did you hire such a beautiful assistant? Why didn't you tell us?" Chen Ajiao was the first to see Charlotte, and then she said sarcastically, "What assistant? Call me assistant." Zhou Xiaohong corrected Chen Ajiao's mistake, and then said sweetly, "Brother Lei Zi, good morning." When Charlotte came, he wanted to call Liang Xiao and introduce her to the staff of Lei Ma Studio. He didn't expect that she would find him here and chat with the workers. Charlotte smiled. "It seems that I don't need to introduce you." Liang Xiao said, "Boss Xia, I'll start work today. What do you think?" In front of the workers, she called him Boss Xia. When there was no one else, she called him Junior Brother or Lazy. Obviously, she had entered the dual role of her senior sister and assistant. Charlotte said, "Okay, no problem. You can use my desk for the time being." He looked a little embarrassed. "It's just that it's a little inconvenient for you to work here." "It's nothing," Liang Xiao said with a smile. "I'll make a plan for you first. You need a systematic plan for the company's establishment stage." "Okay, thank you." Charlotte needed such a plan. Liang Xiao quickly got into work mode. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, and her 10 slender fingers were like a group of butterflies flying around, dazzling the eyes of those who saw it. "Look, Miss Liang is so awesome." Zhou Xiaohong had also learned computer skills, but she used one finger to type. Compared with Liang Xiao, she was far behind. "Is she the future boss's wife?" Chen Ajiao, who was drawing on the steel plate, said. Zhou Xiaohong said, "Sister Ajiao, if Miss Liang and Brother Lazy were together, they would really be a good match." Chen Ajiao leaned over and whispered, "Xiaohong, you and Boss Lei are also a good match. You have a big butt, and you can definitely have a son." Zhou Xiaohong's face suddenly turned red. She hit Chen Ajiao and said, "Sister Ajiao, if you talk nonsense again, I'll ignore you." Chen Ajiao sighed. "Ah, if only Shaon was still here. He must like the new Miss Liang very much. He is a lecherous guy, I know." Zhou Xiaohong's expression suddenly became gloomy, and the little shyness in her heart was buried in the blink of an eye by sadness. Charlotte was also sad when he saw this, but he soon recovered. He wanted to process the parts for Shinjo Industry Group, but he remembered that Shinjo Industry Group hadn't sent the raw materials yet, so he couldn't start even if he wanted to. I don't know when Shinjo Industry Group will send the raw materials. Should I call Zhou Wei or Jiang Xian and ask? At the same time, I can probe them and ask about the land. Forget it, if I call them now, they will think that I can't do without them. I have to stay calm and let them beg me, Xia Lei thought to himself. The Lima Manufacturing Company was about to be established, and the land was the first problem that needed to be solved. The second problem was the employees. When a new factory was established, it was obviously not enough to only have Chen Ajiao and Wang Youfu as employees. However, he had no feasible solution to these two tricky problems. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. Everything was difficult at the beginning. Even setting up a stall on the street was difficult, let alone starting a company. Charlotte walked behind Liang Xiao and watched her typing the plan. Liang Xiao noticed that there was someone behind her. She looked back at Charlotte and said, "We don't care about the land for the time being. We can't do it even if we want to. But we can't just wait like this. We have to do something else. Recruiting workers and ordering equipment. Which one do you think we should do first?" Charlotte thought for a moment. "I think we should recruit workers first. Talents are the foundation of an enterprise. Without people, we can't do anything." Liang Xiao smiled. "It's good that you can think like this. I think so too. I'll draft up a recruitment notice and send it out." "Where should I send it?" Xia Lei asked curiously. "Technical School and University of Science and Technology." Liang Xiao said, "In technical school, we can recruit basic skilled workers, and in University of Science and Technology, we can recruit more advanced talents. These talents can enhance our competitiveness in the market and even design our own products for us." Charlotte smiled. "So you have planned everything?" Liang Xiao said, "Of course. After sending you home last night, I went home and sorted out the current situation of our company. By the way, the woman last night." Charlotte already knew that she was going to talk about Jiang Rui. "Forget it. I want to talk about that rude guy." Liang Xiao returned the topic to work. Now the employment situation of college students is not ideal, which also makes it convenient for us to recruit workers. But even so, we still have to make some benefits to attract talents, so that we can recruit excellent talents. Charlotte said, "You can do it as you see fit. You are better at it than me." "Well, I will be responsible for the recruitment section, and you will be responsible for the land and building the factory. What do you think?" Liang Xiao said. Charlotte nodded. "Let's do that." Liang Xiao turned her head again and typed the recruitment introduction on the keyboard. Looking at Liang Xiao, who was working hard, Charlotte's heart was gratified. In fact, he was also very clear in his heart that if Liang Zhengchun didn't think that he was a good talent for martial arts and could carry forward the orthodox Wing Chun Kung Fu, would Liang Xiao, a talent who returned from abroad, come to work in his almost empty company? Dream on. At this time, a Hongqi car stopped on the side of the road, and two men got out of the car. One was Jiang Xian, and the other was an old man with a new face. The old man was nearly 60 years old, with gray hair, a thin face, a pair of bright eyes, and a temperament. After Jiang Xian and the old man got out of the car, a small container car also stopped on the side of the road, most likely to send raw materials. Charlotte's heart moved, and he went out to greet them. "Mr. Lei." Jiang Xian smiled and said hello from afar. "I wanted to call you before coming, but Mr. Mu didn't let me, so we came directly." Although he didn't know the identity of Mr. Mu, Charlotte could guess that it was not simple. He said politely, "Hello, Mr. Mu." Then he took the initiative to reach out his hands to shake hands with Mr. Mu. When Mr. Mu shook hands with Charlotte, Jiang Xian introduced, "This is the old leader of our Shinjo Industry Group, Mu Jianfeng." Then he said, "Mr. Mu, this is Charlotte, Mr. Xia, I told you about." In this way, Charlotte and Mu Jianfeng got to know each other. Mu Jianfeng looked at Charlotte carefully, and then looked at the small Lei Ma studio behind Charlotte. After a while, he said, "Boy, you only have such a small studio on the street, and you dare to ask our Shinjo Industry Group to buy land for you to build a factory?" Xia Lei froze for a moment, and his expression was rather awkward. He wanted to guess what Mu Jianfeng was thinking at the moment, but Mu Jianfeng was expressionless, a real old fox, so he couldn't guess at all. Just when Charlotte felt very embarrassed, Mu Jianfeng said with a smile, "However, putting your ability aside, I have to give you a thumbs up for your courage and courage to threaten our Shenzhou industry group. Well, boy, you are a talent, and your future is limitless." Charlotte secretly breathed a sigh of relief. "Mr. Mu, you flatter me." Chapter 85. A person who ran a small street shop cooperated with a large national enterprise and even threatened the large national enterprise to buy land for him to repair his factory. This indeed required considerable courage and boldness. Mu Jianfeng admired Charlotte's personality and ability, which was why he was here. At this time, Jiang Xin came at Charlotte's side and whispered, "Mr. Xia, do you know who he is? He's our boss." Only then did Charlotte know Mu Jianfeng's identity. This identity shocked him and made him speechless. At this time, Liang Xiao also noticed that Mu Jianfeng and Jiang Xin had come. She vaguely guessed something and followed them out. "Boss Xia, please take a look at this recruitment document. Is it okay?" Liang Xiao specially handed the newly printed recruitment document to Charlotte. Charlotte understood Liang Xiao's thoughts very well. He said with a smile, "Old Mu, Mr. Jiang, let me introduce you. This is my assistant, Liang Xiao." Liang Xiao followed and bowed. "Hello, Old Mu, hello, Mr. Jiang." Instead of shaking hands directly, they bowed to each other. This was already a very high etiquette in the workplace. Jiang Xin said very politely, "Hello, Miss Liang. May I know which university did you graduate from? And what is your major?" Liang Xiao said, "I also graduated from Harvard University in the United States. I majored in business management. I used to work in an e-commerce company in the United States, and I also worked in a venture capital company." She simply and generously explained her resume and smiled again. "Now I work for Boss Xia." After listening to her, Mu Jianfeng and Jiang Xin couldn't help but look at each other. Both of them looked surprised, because they knew very well that business management talents who graduated from Harvard University were also very popular in the United States, not to mention in China. As long as she was willing, she could totally choose to work in a listed company, and her annual salary would definitely be at least 500,000 yuan. But such a high talent actually chose to follow Charlotte, who was still starting his own business. When Charlotte saw Jiang Xin and Mu Jianfeng's reactions, he felt especially honored in his heart. "Miss Liang, if I give you an annual salary of 500,000, would you be willing to work in our company?" Mu Jianfeng said. Charlotte's smile froze on his face as he thought to himself, "What's wrong with this old man, Mu? Even if you want to poach people, you should do it behind my back, right? I'm still here, yet he dares to poach me. Does he not care about me at all? Or does he not intend to help me get that piece of land?" For a moment, Charlotte's heart was filled with guesses and worries. At this time, Liang Xiao said, "Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Mu. Compared with your Shenzhou Industrial Company, I would rather stay in Thunder Horse Manufacturing." "Huh?" Mu Jianfeng looked interested. "Miss Liang, tell me why." Liang Xiao said, "Although your company is big and the salary is considerable, that is only a temporary advantage. If I stay in Thunder Horse Manufacturing Company, I can get more room for development. My current income is certainly not 500,000 yuan a year, but it will be more than that in the future. This is the reason for the income. Another reason is the prospects. The prospects of Thunder Horse Manufacturing Company are very good, not comparable to ordinary companies. You have to admit this, otherwise you wouldn't be here, would you?" Her words hit the nail on the head. If it weren't for the fact that Charlotte and Charlotte's Thunder Horse Manufacturing Company were the only ones in China who could process the ultra-precision parts they needed, would Mu Jianfeng and Jiang Xin be here? Great, they're not simple. Young people today are much more powerful than we were at that time. Mu Jianfeng laughed and said, "Miss Liang, I was just joking. You can go and do your work." "Well, okay, Mr. Mu." Liang Xiao turned around and left. Charlotte stopped her and handed her the recruitment document. You're responsible for it. Don't ask me. Liang Xiao nodded and took the recruitment document into Thunder Horse Studio. The employees of Thunder Horse Studio looked at Mu Jianfeng and Jiang Xian curiously and whispered. After Liang Xiao went in, she motioned for them not to look and to continue working. Then they stopped talking and began to work. As Charlotte's assistant, her rank was definitely higher than theirs, so they had to listen to her words. The employees of Thunder Horse Studio were not highly educated, but one thing was very good. They could clearly distinguish who the boss was. Whatever the boss asked them to do, they would always do it to the letter. Mu Jianfeng said to Jiang Xian, Little Jiang, ask the workers to unload the raw materials and then ask them to help move them into the studio. Mr. Xia's studio has few employees, so we don't need his people. Okay. Jiang Xian followed and arranged it. Mu Jianfeng said to Charlotte, Mr. Xia, walk with me. Charlotte had already guessed that there would be such a moment. He said, Okay, let's walk around. The old man and the young man walked along the sidewalk, chatting as they walked. Mr. Xia, the main purpose of my coming this time is not to help you get that piece of land. Do you know what it is? After chatting for a while, Mu Jianfeng led the topic to business. Charlotte said, I can probably guess. Mr. Mu came to Haiju this time to find out whether I can upgrade ordinary machine tools to the most advanced ones in developed countries in Europe and America. Right? Good guess. Since you have guessed it, can you give me a reassuring answer? Mu Jianfeng stopped and looked straight into Charlotte's eyes, as if he wanted to see through all the secrets of Charlotte. Charlotte said, I have already told Mr. Zhou Wei and Mr. Jiang Xian that I can do it, but only if I go abroad and see the drawings and the real thing. That's no problem. You can go abroad at any time. We also have channels to let you see the drawings and the most advanced machine tools. When will you go abroad? Charlotte said, after the company is built. There was a flash of displeasure in Mu Jianfeng's eyes. Mr. Xia, do you really want us to help you get that piece of land? Charlotte nodded and said, Well, I will ask you for this one thing. I will not ask you for anything else in the future. Mu Jianfeng walked forward again and said, Mr. Xia, it is very difficult for you to help. Charlotte stopped talking and said in his heart, I have to help even if I don't want to. How much money do you have now? A total of 4 million yuan. What? Mu Jianfeng looked at Charlotte in surprise. You only have 6 million yuan, and you want us to help you buy a piece of land that is worth more than 100 million yuan? Are you kidding me? Mu Jianfeng's tone suddenly became bad, but Xia Lei's patience didn't decrease. He lightly said, Yes, it's only 6 million. I still need to use this money to build a factory, add equipment, hire workers, and so on. Now I can't wait to use a penny as 10,000 yuan. Mu Jianfeng sneered. I thought you had money in your hands, at least 70 or 80 million yuan. We can lend you some, and then use our administrative relationship to requisition that piece of land for special purposes. But now you actually tell me that you only need 6 million yuan, and this money needs to be used to build a factory, buy equipment, and even recruit workers. Young man, are you trying to make me happy? Mu Jianfeng's tone became more and more impolite, and Charlotte's temper slowly rose. He also sneered, Old Mu, if this happened 5 or 6 years later, I wouldn't need to ask you for help at all. I really don't have any money now. I am using the benefits of our future cooperation to do today's matter. You say it as lightly as a wick. Young man, I have to remind you that the land you want is worth more than 100 million yuan. Mu Jianfeng said bluntly, If you don't have that money, why do you have to choose that piece of land? You can choose a remote place. Dozens of acres of land can be settled for 1 million yuan. Give me an explanation. Charlotte frowned. Do you think I am blackmailing you? Mu Jianfeng said, If you don't have a more reasonable explanation, I will understand it this way. Charlotte snorted. If you really think so, then we don't need to talk anymore. What do you mean? I don't mean anything. I will complete the order signed with Mr. Zhou Wei this time, and then you can find someone else. In the future, even if it's a screw, I won't do it for you. You brat. Mu Jianfeng was so angry that he blew his beard. No one had ever dared to talk to him like this, and Charlotte was the first one. Keep your money and relationship. Goodbye, Mr. Mu. Charlotte said this and turned to leave. Wait. Mu Jianfeng was anxious and grabbed Charlotte's arm. Charlotte didn't dare to break free. He was worried that he would accidentally pull the old man down, and then the show would be over. Why do you have such a bad temper? Mu Jianfeng stared at Charlotte unhappily. I can be your grandfather. As a grandfather, you can't stand it when I teach you a lesson? Charlotte said, I didn't say anything. It's just that, Mr. Mu, how can I be happy if you treat me as a liar? I don't think you dare to cheat Xinzhou Industrial Group. I think you know what kind of company it is, Mu Jianfeng said. Charlotte said, Of course I know. It is equivalent to the Lockheed Martin Corporation in the United States, which produces war weapons for the country. So, even if I am tired of living, I will not be stupid enough to cheat your money, right? What's more, I am not cheating money, but land. Can I sell that land? Or will I be able to take the land abroad? Mu Jianfeng's expression eased a little, but his words were not soft. But that land is really worth hundreds of millions. Your Lima manufacturing company built a factory on that land. Your company is not valuable, but the land is valuable. Even if the property company evaluates the assets, you will be worth hundreds of millions at once. Do you think this is reasonable? Do you think it is unreasonable? No. Mu Jianfeng shook his head. Charlotte said, Let me make an analogy. I am not selling water next to the water company. I'm selling water in the desert. You are my customers walking in the desert. Europe and the United States have implemented a strict technical blockade, and your water storage has long been used up. Just when you were extremely thirsty, you found me, a water seller. You tell me, can you give me 1 yuan, and I will sell water to you? Mu Jianfeng was stunned for a long time, and suddenly laughed. Well said, this analogy is very appropriate. You are indeed the person selling water in the desert. Is this the reason why you're not afraid to blackmail us? Charlotte shrugged. Whatever you say, I don't care if you cheat or blackmail me. I don't care what you think of me. I just want to build a factory on that land. Mu Jianfeng sighed and then walked back. Charlotte stood in the same place and did not move. Mu Jianfeng took 2 steps and then turned back and shouted, Why are you still standing there? Take me to see that land. Charlotte immediately smiled. Okay, old Mu, I will take you to see the land. Mu Jianfeng shook his head with a bitter smile. You are the most stubborn boy I have ever seen. Chapter 86. Xinzhou Industry Group sent raw materials, so Charlotte was busy. He was the only one who could process the parts needed by Xinzhou Industry Group, and the people in the studio couldn't help even if they wanted to. Fortunately, Mu Jianfeng and Jiang Xian were in charge of the land, so he didn't need to worry about it. On the other side, Liang Xiao was also in charge of recruitment, so he didn't need to worry about it. Otherwise, he would have to split himself into 3 people to use. Long Bing appeared once and then disappeared mysteriously. Charlotte only called her once, and then he never called her again. It wasn't that he didn't want to see her, but she was investigating him. It was inappropriate for a person being investigated to call the person being investigated and ask him out for a meal. In this way, half a month passed in the blink of an eye. In this half a month, Charlotte worked overtime to process the precision parts needed by Xinzhou Industry Group. Except for Zhou Xiaohong, who lived in the studio, he was the first person to come to the studio every day and the last person to leave. After half a month of busy work, the order signed with Zhou Wei was finally completed. Just like the parts process for Dongfang Heavy Industry last time, this time the order was also completed in advance and with high quality. In this half a month, Liang Xiao also made some progress. In this half a month, she went to several technical schools and signed almost 100 technicians who were about to graduate. There was no factory, no dormitory, but this didn't prevent her from doing it. Her way of dealing with it was very simple. Each contracted mechanic could get 500 yuan of living expenses before Lima manufacturing was completed. Only 50,000 yuan a month was enough to solve the problem of manpower reserve. Her intelligence was obvious. As for the more senior talents, Liang Xiao also had her way of dealing with them. She looked for her favorite fresh graduates in Haiju Institute of Technology and attracted talents with ideals and a higher salary than other recruitment units. If it didn't work, she would show them a copy of the order signed by Charlotte and Shinjo Industry Group and boast about the strength of Lima Manufacturing Company. This move worked wonders for those geeks. The reason was very simple. Thunder Horse Manufacturing could actually process precision parts that could only be imported from Europe and the United States. Working in such a new company would definitely have a bright future. Half a month later, the Haiju city government launched the land trading market and put several pieces of land together for bidding and auction. Charlotte and Liang Xiao arrived at the auction hall early in the morning. The auction hall was already filled with people. Most of them were real estate developers, but there were also some bosses of companies that needed land for expansion. These people were dressed in suits and leather shoes, and they had young and beautiful female secretaries with them. They were all high-spirited, and every one of them was a winner in life. Why isn't Elder Mu here yet? Scanning the hall, Liang Xiao did not see Mu Jianfeng, who was supposed to be there. She said worriedly, "Will he not come?" Charlotte didn't seem worried at all. "Maybe it's a traffic jam. Don't worry, he'll be back. When I delivered the goods to him yesterday, we made an appointment." Liang Xiao smiled bitterly. "This matter is too important to us. I always worry and think about the worst." Charlotte said with a smile, "What's there to worry about? With Elder Mu's identity and connections, he's just here to go through the process." Just then, a group of people came in from the entrance of the hall. At the front were Huang Yihu and his wife, Li Yulan. Behind them were several bosses and 4 bodyguards. The bodyguards were Huang Yihu's bodyguards. Charlotte recognized them at a glance. He had seen 4 bodyguards with guns in the fishing village villa. Charlotte's eyes then moved to the waists of the 4 bodyguards. If Huang Yihu's bodyguards came in with guns, it would really give him a chance to take revenge. If they brought guns in on such an occasion, he only needed to call the police to make Huang Yihu suffer. Unfortunately, when he glanced at the 4 bodyguards, he didn't find that they were carrying guns. No matter how arrogant a person like Huang Yihu was, he wouldn't dare to be arrogant in front of the government. Huang Yihu and Li Yulan also saw Charlotte and walked over. "Mr. Xia, are you here to watch the fun?" Li Yulan said sarcastically. "I just asked the registration office, and they said that no boss named Charlotte paid a deposit." Huang Yihu also said sarcastically, "Boss? How can a person who can't even pay a deposit of 50 million yuan be called a boss?" Charlotte said, "It's true that I can't pay a deposit of 50 million yuan because I don't know how to cheat. If I were to steal and rob like you, I would probably be able to pay a deposit of 50 million yuan and then participate in the auction like a decent person." Huang Yihu's 4 bodyguards rushed up. Huang Yihu glared at them, and the 4 bodyguards retreated. Huang Yihu looked at Charlotte and said, "Boy, I'm still waiting for you to kneel and kowtow to me. Don't leave after the auction is over. I'll tell you where kneel and kowtow to me." Charlotte said, "I also want to remind you not to leave after the auction is over. I'll take you to kneel and kowtow to my friend's grave." "Humph." Huang Yihu snorted coldly and left with his bodyguards. Liang Xiao said angrily, "I really want to beat this guy up." And the woman beside him, "I've never seen such a cheap woman." Charlotte said, "It's not worthwhile to be angry with this kind of person. Let's find a place to sit." Charlotte and Liang Xiao picked a seat in the corner and sat down, waiting for the auction to begin. In the process of waiting, Liang Xiao took out her laptop from her computer bag to work. Charlotte also took out a small notebook and wrote on it with a pen. He wrote very seriously. After writing one, he continued to write another. He didn't write specific content. He just wrote whatever he thought of. In the auction hall, the bosses were chatting with each other, and it was not quiet at all. Charlotte and Liang Xiao were an exception. They were very quiet and focused on their own things, indifferent to the people and things around them. During this time, Liang Xiao squinted at Charlotte and the small notebook in his hand. She saw the messy content on the notebook and asked curiously, "What are you writing?" Charlotte smiled and said, "Nothing, just practicing calligraphy." "Practicing calligraphy?" Liang Xiao looked at the crooked Chinese characters on the notebook and became more curious. I've seen your handwriting. It's very delicate, but your handwriting is so bad now. It's like the handwriting of a primary school student. Do you want your handwriting to get worse and worse? How can you practice calligraphy like this? Charlotte leaned over to her ear and whispered, "This isn't my handwriting. It's someone else's handwriting." Liang Xiao was stunned for a moment. She suddenly remembered something. "You're imitating Huang Yihu's handwriting?" Charlotte nodded. He was indeed practicing Huang Yihu's handwriting. After half a month of imitating practice, not only could he completely imitate Huang Yihu's signature on the bed, but he could also use Huang Yihu's handwriting to write other content. What do you want to do by imitating his handwriting? Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte with some worry. "It's okay. Don't worry about it." Charlotte didn't want her to get involved. Liang Xiao said, "I know you want to avenge your friend, but you have to be careful. It's best not to do anything illegal." Charlotte said, "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Liang Xiao didn't continue to ask Charlotte why he imitated Huang Yihu's notes. She turned the laptop on her knees to Charlotte and said, "Look, this is the personnel arrangement plan I drafted according to the employees I recruited during this period of time. After the factory is built, we need some middle-level cadres and our product research and development department. I've made arrangements according to the specialties of some people. If you think it's feasible, I'll implement it." Charlotte just looked at it lightly and said with a smile, "I said that you're responsible for these things. Aren't you afraid that I'll lie to you?" Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte with a smile. Charlotte said, "We're a family. You won't lie to me. However, even if you lie to me, I don't care." Liang Xiao's dimples turned red inexplicably. "We're family." This sentence had different meanings from different perspectives. Just as the two were whispering, the government staff who presided over the land auction went up to the auction stage. He tested the microphone and then said, "Please be quiet. The state-owned land auction is about to begin. Please keep your number plates and abide by the order of the venue." The whole auction hall suddenly quieted down. Liang Xiao subconsciously looked at the door of the hall, but she still didn't see Mu Jianfeng's figure. Charlotte was also a little puzzled. He secretly said, "Yesterday we had a good agreement. Did he stand me up? That's impossible. Elder Mu is the kind of person who keeps his promises. How could he stand me up?" No matter what Charlotte and Liang Xiao thought, the door of the auction hall was still empty. Mu Jianfeng and his entourage were nowhere to be seen. The land auction soon began. The supporters showed the situation of the auction land to the people present with a slide. Then the bosses raised their cards and bid for the land they wanted. One piece of land after another was auctioned. An hour later, the host bid from land number 1 to land number 12. Charlotte and Liang Xiao didn't know how many times they looked at the door of the hall, but Mu Jianfeng never appeared. Huang Yihu, who was sitting in the front row, looked back at Charlotte and Liang Xiao. His eyes were full of sarcasm and contempt. He seemed to be saying to Charlotte, "You're going to lose." Liang Xiao said gloomily, "It seems that Elder Mu won't come. We've been cheated by him." If Liang Xiao had said this half an hour ago, Charlotte would have persuaded her not to worry, but now he couldn't rest assured. Land number 12 was quickly taken away by a boss at a price of 120 million. The host played the slide of land number 13 on the slide and said, "Now the auction for land number 13 will begin. This land is located on the east side of the 3rd Ring Road. It has an area of 21 acres and is surrounded by schools and hospitals. The price of this land is 80 million. Now the bidding begins." The phase of raising signs and competing had begun. Huang Yihu was the first to raise his card. 81 million. Huang Yihu was the only one who raised his card. No one competed with him. Huang Yihu was Lao-Chi. Who dared to snatch the land that Lao-Chi wanted? Is there any other bid? If not, this land will be won by this gentleman at the price of 81 million. The host urged the other bosses to raise their cards, but this situation didn't happen. After a minute, he said helplessly, 81 million once, 81 million twice. Wait. An old man's voice suddenly came from the door. Chapter 87. This voice attracted everyone's attention. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Mu Jianfeng walked in from the entrance of the hall, accompanied by Jiang Xen. "Who was that old man?" someone said in a low voice. He actually dared to stop Chairman Huang from raising his sign? He really doesn't know what's good for him. "I've never seen this old man before." "Who is he?" someone said. "This is going to be a good show." Huang Yihu released the news that anyone who competed with him for Lot 13 would be against him. "Now that this old man has made it clear that he's here for Lot 13, I want to see how Huang Yihu will deal with this," someone said in a low voice. "Sigh, he's probably a foreign merchant who doesn't know what's going on. He actually dared to compete for Huang Yihu's land. He's screwed." Someone sighed. The hall was filled with buzzing sounds of discussion, and the previous quiet atmosphere suddenly disappeared. Mu Jianfeng turned a deaf ear to the discussions around him. His eyes quickly swept across the seats and quickly found Charlotte and Liang Xiao sitting in the corner. He nodded to Charlotte and Liang Xiao, then strode toward the auction booth. Before Mu Jianfeng and Jiang Xian could get close, the auctioneer probed, "Old sir, are you here to bid for Lot 13? If you are, please find a seat and raise your sign according to the rules." Mu Jianfeng said, "I really came for this land. Sitting down is a must. I'll say a few words and leave." One awesome style. With just this one sentence, the noisy hall strangely quieted down. Everyone's gazes converged on Mu Jianfeng's body in unison. At this time, Huang Yihu finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He stood up from his seat and walked out of the alley, blocking Mu Jianfeng and Jiang Xian's path. "Who are you?" Huang Yihu's tone was very aggressive and full of threat. Mu Jianfeng frowned slightly. "And who are you?" Li Yulan also stood up and said loudly, "Host, what's wrong with you? Weren't you going to close the hammer? Why did it stop?" A piece of land recognized by the industry to be worth hundreds of millions, or even more, yet Huang Yihu had used the method of suppressing other bidders to bid 81 million. This was, in fact, illegal appropriation of government assets. Of course, the host knew the reason very well, but he didn't dare to say anything even though he was angry. Coincidentally, an old man appeared and interrupted the auction. Of course, he was happy to postpone the auction. The host said, "It seems that this old gentleman also wants to bid for this land. I have no reason to stop him from participating." Li Yulan was getting anxious. He wants to bid for this piece of land too. Did he pay a deposit? Did he have the right to bid? Take it out and let me see. Get out of my way. Mu Jianfeng was angry. Huang Yihu had no intention of backing down. "Didn't you hear? Take out what you're supposed to take out. If you're not qualified to bid, then you're here to cause trouble. Please leave." He pointed at the entrance of the hall. Charlotte walked over quickly. "Mr. Mu, is there a dog blocking the way?" Mu Jianfeng said, "There is indeed a dog blocking the way, but it's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. If this can stop me, then I've lived my life in vain." Huang Yu didn't take Mu Jianfeng's words seriously. He looked at Charlotte and said with a ferocious expression, "Sure enough, it's you who's causing trouble. You're overestimating yourself." "Get out of my way," Charlotte said. Huang Yihu didn't move, but there was a hint of disdain in the corner of his mouth. Charlotte suddenly grabbed Huang Yihu's collar and pushed him in the direction of a chair. Huang Yihu was immediately pushed down on the chair and looked very embarrassed. Huang Yihu's 4 bodyguards rushed up. The security guards and the police on duty also rushed over, and the whole hall suddenly became chaotic. "Quiet, quiet. What's the noise?" A man's voice suddenly came from the auction stage. This voice was majestic and full of anger. The chaotic scene quieted down for a while. "Isn't that Mayor Hu Ho? He's also here." Someone recognized the middle-aged man who had just walked on the auction stage. Charlotte glanced at the fair-skinned, middle-aged man standing on the auction stage and thought, "So he is the mayor. He looks like a teacher, but his words are so majestic." Huang Yihu got up from the chair. He was full of anger, but he didn't dare to act rashly in front of Hu Ho, so he had to bear it. However, his eyes were full of murderous intent when he looked at Charlotte, as if he wanted to stab Charlotte a few times. "Mr. Mu, I'm really sorry," Hu Ho said into the microphone. "I was delayed because something came up, so I couldn't come in advance." Mu Jianfeng walked to the auction stage and said with a smile, I just arrived. Your Haizhu city is too busy. There was a traffic jam all the way. Hu Ho and Mu Jianfeng shook hands on the stage. The scene looked very cordial and polite. It was a different scene in the audience. Almost everyone was guessing Mu Jianfeng's identity, and some people began to guess who the young man who had just thrown Huang Yihu on a chair was. Boy, who is he? Seeing Mayor Hu Ho and Mu Jianfeng shaking hands intimately, Huang Yihu finally felt guilty and a little timid. Charlotte sneered, Why? Weren't you very arrogant just now? Now, you know how to be afraid? Afraid? Huang Yihu said, I, Huang Yihu, have never known how to write the word afraid. Pilauchi doesn't know how to write the word afraid, right? Charlotte said, You will die. Huang Yihu's tone was full of threat. Xiaolei smiled. Of course I will die, but it will definitely be after you. You don't have much time left. At this time, Mu Jianfeng on the stage walked to the microphone, opened a document handed to him by Jiang Xian, and slowly read, Due to the special location of the number 13 land in Haizhu City, the auction is temporarily canceled. This land is now requisitioned by Shenzhou Industrial Group for the construction of a manufacturing enterprise related to national defense. The audience was silent. Who could stop a large national enterprise from using this reason to take the land? Not to mention Huang Yihu. Even the Gu family had to step aside. Before Mu Jianfeng finished reading the document, Huang Yihu and Li Yulan's faces were already pale. For this land, the couple had fallen out with the bosses of many Haizhu land companies and had invested a considerable amount of money in the early stage. They had thought that these investments would bring them a lot of profits, but now it seemed that it was all for naught. Both Huang Yihu and Li Yulan stared at Charlotte. What the couple wanted to do most now was to eat Charlotte's flesh and drink Charlotte's blood. Charlotte looked relaxed. He said with a smile, Boss Huang, don't forget our bet. I'm still waiting to take you to my friend's grave to kneel and kowtow to him. Huang Yihu gritted his teeth. At this time, Mu Jianfeng finished reading the document. He added to the microphone, Mr. Xia, please come here. Charlotte followed him. Liang Xiao followed Charlotte for 2 steps, but she frowned and said awkwardly, Boss Xia, you go ahead. I go to the bathroom. Go ahead, and then come here, said Charlotte. Liang Xiao walked in the direction of the bathroom. Huang Yihu suddenly gave his 4 bodyguards a look, and his 4 bodyguards followed them. Charlotte walked to the stage and greeted them politely. Hello, Mr. Mu. Hello, Mayor Hu. What's the matter? Mu Jianfeng smiled and said, Little Hu, you talk to him. Hu Ho handed a thick document bag to Charlotte and said, This is the certificate for the use of land number 13. It's yours now. Later, go to the Land Bureau and pay a fee of 1 million, and then you can build a factory on that land. Charlotte bought a land worth hundreds of millions with 1 million. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mu. Thank you, Mayor Hu. Charlotte was very excited. Mu Jianfeng smiled and said, Don't thank me. You only have the right to use that land. You don't have the right to sell or transfer it. If you want to sell it and make a fortune, I won't forgive you. Charlotte laughed and said, That won't happen. Absolutely not. Hu Ho looked at Charlotte and said in a friendly tone, Mr. Xia, I heard something about you from Mr. Mu. The younger generation will surpass the older. When Mr. Mu mentioned this land to me, I actually didn't agree. But when I heard that a local young man wanted to use it to build a manufacturing company and that it would process precision parts that could only be imported from Europe and the United States, I immediately agreed. I thought that if I sold the land to a developer to build a building, it would only bring a little financial income, but if I gave it to you to build a factory, it would bring lasting benefits. I have high hopes for you, young man. Work hard and strive to develop your company into a world-class enterprise. These words were full of positive energy, and Charlotte's heart was moved. If there were more leaders like Hu Ho and Mu Jianfeng, China's dream of soaring was more than just a dream. Kid, go ahead and do what you have to do. Mu Jianfeng said. Well, goodbye, Mr. Mu. Goodbye, Mayor Hu. Charlotte said politely. Hu Ho said, By the way, Mr. Xia, if you have any difficulties, remember to come to me. Charlotte nodded and said, Well, thank you, Mayor Hu. Charlotte walked down the auction stage, and Hu said with a smile, "This kid is not bad, modest and polite." Mu Jianfeng curled his lips and said, "That's because you haven't seen his stubbornness. I think he's a calf who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, what our country lacks is a calf like him, huh?" The land auction continued, but Huang Yihu and Li Yulan were no longer in the mood to continue to stay. The couple left their seats and walked along the corridor to the entrance of the hall. Charlotte quickly walked up and said, "Huang Yihu, stop." Huang Yihu looked back at Charlotte and said fiercely, "Kid, you'd better not provoke me now." Charlotte said, "Have you forgotten our bet? You didn't get the 13th plot. According to our bet, you have to kneel and kowtow in front of my friend's grave with me." Bet? Huang Yihu sneered and said, "I did sign a bet with you, but I signed it as a joke. If you don't agree, you can go to court and sue me." Li Yulan interrupted and said, "I advise you to be sensible and not overestimate yourself. Oh, by the way, you should go and see your girlfriend. She went to the bathroom for a while. Did something happen to her?" Huang Yihu sneered again and again. Charlotte suddenly had an ominous feeling in his heart. He grabbed Huang Yihu's collar and said, "If you dare to touch her, I will kill you. Let go, or I will call the police." Huang Yihu stared at Charlotte. Charlotte let go of Huang Yihu and quickly ran to the bathroom. Huang Yihu and Li Yulan looked at each other and followed. After passing through a corridor and turning a corner, the scene that suddenly came into sight made Charlotte stunned. Huang Yihu's 4 bodyguards were lying on the ground, all of them with bruises and swollen faces. Liang Xiao was washing her hands in the sink. She was very calm, as if it were just a few bonsai on the ground. "You're here." Liang Xiao saw Charlotte and greeted him with a smile. Charlotte came back to his senses and said, "Are you all right?" Liang Xiao glanced at the 4 bodyguards lying on the ground and said disdainfully, They are not qualified. If this was not a government agency, I would have broken their teeth." Charlotte. At this time, Huang Yihu and Li Yulan came out from the corner. At first glance, they saw the 4 bodyguards lying on the ground, and suddenly their faces turned pale. The couple looked at the lovely Liang Xiao, but their eyes looked like they were looking at a beautiful snake or some kind of monster. Liang Xiao walked over and pointed at Huang Yihu's nose and said, "My surname is Liang, and my name is Liang Xiao. Remember it. My father is Liang Zhengchun, the 10th generation of Wing Chun. Others are afraid of you, but I am not at all. Do you think you have many people? One phone call from my father, and the whole street is full of his disciples. Do you dare to set up a battlefield? I can kill you in minutes." Huang Yihu didn't say anything, but he was sweating a lot. Chapter 88. In the Liang family, an old man and 2 young people were eating together. There was a plate of sweet and sour pork ribs, a plate of twice-cooked pork, a plate of spicy eggplant, and a plate of stir-fried lettuce on the table. These dishes were cooked by Charlotte, which was also his celebration of taking the land. It was simple but real. "Master, have a piece of pork ribs." Charlotte picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and put it into Liang Zhengchun's bowl. Liang Zhengchun smiled and said, Eat, you eat too. You don't have to pick up food for me." "Dad, if Lazy picks up food for you, you eat it," Liang Xiao said with a smile. "Lazy told me more than once that he is his father. He can say this, but you can't say it casually." Liang Zhengchun smiled mysteriously, and there seemed to be some other meaning in his words. Liang Xiao's dimples turned slightly red, and she buried her head to eat. Charlotte was also a little embarrassed and lowered his head to eat. Liang Zhengchun didn't want to let go of Liang Xiao. He knocked Liang Xiao's head with his chopsticks and scolded, "Look at Lazy, a man, cooking such good dishes. You are a girl, but you only cook instant noodles. Aren't you ashamed? Learn from Lazy. When you get married, you can't make instant noodles for your husband and children every day, can you?" "Dad." Liang Xiao's face became redder. Okay, let's not talk about you. Let's eat." Liang Zhengchun stopped talking, but he couldn't hide the joy between his eyebrows. Charlotte could buy a land worth hundreds of millions with 1 million yuan, which made him feel proud as a master. After eating, Liang Xiao took the initiative to wash the dishes. Liang Jingchun also called Charlotte to his study. This was actually the first time that Charlotte came to Liang Jingchun's home. He was surprised by the collection of books in Liang Jingchun's study. In his sight, several rows of bookshelves were full of books. There are not only martial arts, but also natural science, literary classics, and so on. It was very comprehensive. Charlotte said, "Master, you like reading so much. I'll bring you some good books next time." Liang Jingchun smiled. "Sure. Well, I'm not practicing martial arts. I read books, write, and draw. Reading is good. You should also read more books. Books can teach people knowledge, but they can also teach people the principles of life." Charlotte said, "I'll remember." Liang Zhengchun patted Charlotte's shoulder. "Master didn't call you here to teach you these principles. I think it's time to teach you something." Charlotte was suddenly excited. He knew that Liang Zhengchun was going to teach him the unique skill of Wing Chun. Every man in China seemed to have a kung fu dream, but very few had seen real kung fu, let alone learned it. With such an opportunity in front of him, how could Charlotte not be excited? At this moment, he felt as if he had returned to his childhood. He had just finished watching The Hero, starring Jet Li, and was looking forward to having a martial arts master as his teacher. Then, this martial arts master appeared in front of him and gave him guidance. This feeling was really great. "Lei, what do you understand about the concept of Dan Tian?" Liang Zhengchun didn't teach boxing, but he asked such a strange question. Charlotte thought for a moment and touched his forehead awkwardly. "Master, I've only read about the description of Dan Tian in martial arts novels. Is it the place where internal force is stored?" Liang Zhengchun shook his head, then stretched out a finger and pointed at Charlotte's eyebrows, heart, and navel. Finally, he said, "What I'm pointing at is the dantian. The upper is the upper dantian, the middle is the middle dantian, and the lower dantian. What you see in martial arts novels is mostly about the lower dantian behind the navel." Charlotte nodded. This was not difficult to understand. Liang Zhengchun then said, "The dantian is not a fictional concept, but a real organ. The first part of the Huangting exterior scripture says, 'Breathing primordial qi will be in the dantian.' In the dantian, 3 inches below the navel, yin and yang are the doors. Common people give birth to children, and Taoists give birth to bodies. Do you understand the meaning of this?" Charlotte silently understood this sentence in his heart, but in the end, he still shook his head. His understanding of martial arts was too little. Liang Zhengchun smiled. "In fact, it's very simple. The dantian is an organ for people to cultivate qi and keep healthy. If you cultivate it, it will make you strong and powerful, and everything will be clear. If you ignore it, it will be like human muscle atrophy, and it will slowly wither. Taoist masters of health can live to 140 or 150 years old and still walk as if they are flying, and their minds are agile. This is the embodiment of this principle." Charlotte seemed to understand a little. He seemed to understand something, but he couldn't say a word if he wanted to say it. Liang Zhengchun said again, "Inhale qi and store it in the dantian, and refine qi into the spirit. The spirit is the spirit and also the energy." Charlotte smiled bitterly. "Master, this knowledge is too profound. I can't understand it." Liang Zhengchun said, "It's very simple. Practicing martial arts is to cultivate the essence, qi, and spirit, and the physique is secondary. Mastering the rhythm and mystery of breathing, and reaching the same level with your own spirit, you can obtain more powerful strength, which is the internal force in martial arts novels." This time, Charlotte seemed to understand a little more, but his brain was still a mess. "Watch." Liang Zhengchun walked to a wall. He didn't make any preparations. He just took a breath and suddenly punched the wall. Boom! With a muffled sound, there was a shallow fist mark on the wall. Charlotte said with a smile, "That's because Master loves you. By the way, Master asked me to ask you for advice. Do you have time?" "Okay, I will practice with you. If there is anything you don't understand, you can ask me. Liang Xiao readily agreed. The two of them practiced in the guest room. Charlotte took a horse stance, inhaled and clenched his fists, exhaled and punched out. With the rhythm of his breathing, he felt that his fists were stronger than before. The strength and hardness were the same. Liang Xiao pointed at the side and corrected the wrong places. There is something wrong here. You are exhaling too fast. Liang Xiao stood beside Charlotte, holding his forearm with one hand and pressing his belly button with the other. Do it again. Her hand was soft and warm. In addition, the place she pressed was close to the sensitive area. Charlotte's nerves suddenly tightened. Liang Xiao didn't notice the change in Charlotte. Her small hand gently pressed on Charlotte's lower abdomen and urged, "Inhale. Inhale, what are you doing?" Charlotte quickly inhaled and then exhaled and punched. But his mind was full of Liang Xiao's beautiful face, proud peaks, and the curve of her buttocks. He nervously closed his eyes, afraid that his left eye would do something wrong. Liang Xiao went around to his front and gently pressed his lower abdomen with her other hand. Do it again. Charlotte's reaction couldn't help but become slow, and his movements were stiff. As if sensing something, Liang Xiao's gaze suddenly fell a little lower. Her face suddenly turned red, and then she went around to Charlotte's back. She pretended to be calm and said, "Well, just do it again like what you did just now." Charlotte was very embarrassed, but he couldn't help it. Who asked her to touch his lower abdomen? A man and a woman. Both of them were single. It was inevitable that some embarrassing things would happen when the two of them practiced martial arts in the same room. However, Liang Xiao was very patient. Sometimes it was obviously embarrassing, but she could still overcome it and carefully guide Charlotte. He practiced until very late at night. Okay, let's stop here for today. We'll practice tomorrow. Liang Xiao was also tired and sweaty. The thin t-shirt stuck to her skin. The size of her chest was even more majestic, and the curve of her legs was even more slender. Good night. Charlotte didn't dare to look at her body. After Liang Xiao left, Charlotte grabbed the pajamas that Liang Xiao put on his bed. A faint fragrance assailed his nose. That was Liang Xiao's body fragrance. He smelled it on her body just now. It was the same smell. Next time I can't practice with her like this. She may be fine, but I feel uncomfortable. Charlotte glanced at his pants with some depression. Chapter 89. The next morning, after breakfast, Charlotte and Liang Xiao went to Area 13. In the car, Liang Xiao called the people she recruited from the Polytechnic Institute. Charlotte said, "Xiao, our factory hasn't been built yet. Why did you call them here?" Liang Xiao said, "They are your employees. Of course you have to see them. Also, we need a design plan to build the factory, right? If we find a design company to do it, it will cost us a lot of money. They are idle, so we can save a lot of money by asking them to make a design plan." Charlotte said with a smile, "They majored in science and technology, not architecture. Can they design a factory?" Liang Xiao said, "Of course not, but we don't have high requirements. According to the nature of our company, I think we only need a workshop, dormitory, canteen, and office building. These are all simple buildings. I think they can do it." Charlotte thought for a moment and said, "Actually, I have an idea in my mind. That is, we don't build a brick and concrete structure. That will take too long. We will use new building materials to build the office building and dormitory, and use steel and iron to build the workshop. In this way, the construction period will not exceed a month." Liang Xiao said with a smile, "So you have a plan? You and I have the same idea. Then let's implement it and build the factory as soon as possible." The two chatted and arrived at Area 13 before they knew it. Before Charlotte got out of the car, he saw more than a dozen young people, men and women, surrounding the open space. There were also several electric cars parked next to them. It seemed that they had come by electric scooters. In the city, electric scooters often arrive before cars. "Are they the people you recruited from the Polytechnic Institute?" Charlotte asked. Liang Xiao said, "Yes, they're all graduates of this year's Polytechnic Institute. They're all classmates. It must be very lively for them to work together. Let's go and have a look." Charlotte got out of the car and walked to the group of young people with Liang Xiao. Someone saw Charlotte and Liang Xiao and said, "Sister Liang is here." The group of youths stopped chatting and came forward. One by one, they greeted Liang Xiao warmly. Some people wanted to greet Charlotte, but they gave up because they didn't know him. Many people were also quietly sizing up Charlotte, trying to guess his identity. Liang Xiao said, "Friends, let me introduce you. The one standing next to me is the CEO of Lima Manufacturing Company, Charlotte, President Xia. Our CEO, Xia, is currently the best mechanic and welding engineer in the country. He can use ordinary machine tools to produce ultra-precision parts that need to be imported from Europe and America. This is something that no one in our country can compete with." The group of young men immediately became excited, calling out Director Xia nonstop. They didn't hide their admiration for Charlotte. It was as if they had seen a star. "Wow, our CEO Xia is so young and handsome." A girl whispered to her companions. "He can produce ultra-precision parts by hand. F***CK, he's really awesome. It would be great if I could be as good as CEO Xia," a man said. Charlotte didn't seem to be moved by these words. He smiled and greeted the group of young men, shaking hands with them one by one. In fact, Charlotte knew very well that one of the reasons why these people were willing to join the unbuilt Lima Manufacturing Company was because of their admiration for his ability. Another reason was probably Liang Xiao's beauty. Many men were willing to work in a certain company just because they could see their goddess in that company. "When will we officially start work?" President Xia. A gentle girl with glasses stood in front of Charlotte. She looked a little nervous, and her white face was slightly flushed. Charlotte said, "In a month, at most a month. This time, I gathered you here because I want you to participate in the construction of the factory. I want you to design a blueprint for the factory. Can you design it?" "We are." The gentle girl with glasses seemed to want to say to Charlotte, "We are studying science and technology," but she didn't say it in the end. The others also closed their mouths and didn't dare to speak. Charlotte said with a smile, "I know what your major is, but designing machinery is not much different from construction. We are a factory that manufactures machinery and processes parts. We don't need complicated designs like chemical companies. We only need a simple workshop, dormitory, office building, and cafeteria. I plan to use new building materials and steel frames. I believe you can do it." Liang Xiao also interrupted and said, "In the future, you will also work in the office building and live in the dormitory. Don't you want to design your own office and dormitory?" "I'll try." The gentle girl with glasses mustered up her courage and said, "I'm in too." Another voice echoed. Charlotte looked at the gentle girl with glasses and said kindly, "What's your name?" "My name is Guanling Shan," the girl with glasses said. For some reason, she was always very shy. Charlotte said, "Then I'll leave this matter to you." "Me?" Guanling Shan slightly opened her small mouth, as if she couldn't believe it. Charlotte said, "Yes, it's you. Are you confident that you can do it?" Guanling Shan nodded heavily and said, "Yes, Mr. Xia. I will definitely do it well." Charlotte looked at another boy with a smile and said, "What's your name? What are you good at?" The boy was very lively. He said with a smile, "Mr. Xia, my name is Ian Hao. I'm good at electrical design." Charlotte said, "Good. The company will use your specialty in the future. You will have a stage to show your talent." Ian Hao nodded and said, "Thank you, Mr. Xia." There were more than 10 people. Charlotte asked their names and specialties one by one. His attitude was friendly, and his words were very easygoing. He didn't have the airs of a boss at all. After chatting with the last young man named Han Bo, Charlotte said, "I believe you have seen that I am about the same age as you. We are a very young team, and our company is also a new one. Believe me, and believe in yourselves. We will definitely do something great in this land." The young men all had smiles on their faces, and their eyes were full of expectation and longing. Indeed, the average age of the founding team of Lima Manufacturing Company in front of them was probably less than 24 years old. This was a very young team, full of youthful vigor and vitality, as well as the passion and strength of young people. No one could predict what kind of business Charlotte would lead this young team to, but it made people full of expectations. Mr. Xia, I'm going to find measuring tools to measure our land now, and then I'll start drawing. I'll give you the drawing in 3 days. Guan Lingshan was a little impatient. Okay, call me if you need anything, said Charlotte. We'll help too, said Hao. Charlotte said go. The young men left on the electric scooters. They were all fresh graduates who had just graduated from school and were full of longing for the future. Charlotte gave them a lot of space to fantasize and show their creativity, which was enough for them. They didn't care that Charlotte was driving a domestic car worth more than 100,000 yuan, nor did they care that they only had 500 yuan a month for living expenses. Only young people like them who had just graduated and had not yet entered the society would think like this. If they had been old foxes who had been in the workplace for many years, they would definitely have disdained a small company like Lima Manufacturing Company. Even if they wanted to join, they would definitely make a lot of requests. Watching the young men ride away on the electric scooters, Charlotte sighed and said, "They're so nice." Liang Xiao said, "I deliberately didn't go to the agency to recruit the talents we need. Those people only think about how much they can earn, and they don't think about the company. Although these fresh graduates have no experience, who is born with experience? Giving them a chance is also giving ourselves a chance." Charlotte smiled and said, "That's very good of you. Thank you for everything you've done." "Is a thank you enough?" Liang Xiao showed a playful look and said, "Don't you have to show something practical?" Charlotte said tentatively, "What do you want?" "Let's go to the building materials company to place an order first, and then you can invite me to your house and cook a delicious meal for me. Okay?" said Liang Xiao. She really wanted to go to Charlotte's house to have a look, but last time it was ruined because of Jiang Rui. This time, she wanted Charlotte to invite her personally. Charlotte smiled and said, "It's nothing. Okay, it's settled. Let's go to the building materials company first, and then we'll go to the supermarket to buy groceries. I want to eat your sweet and sour pork ribs, honeycomb corn, eggplant with garlic sauce, and seafood." Liang Xiao had already begun to order. Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, "You eat so much. Aren't you afraid of getting fat?" Liang Xiao shrugged and said, "Who told you to cook so well? Okay, I'll make whatever you want to eat. Are you satisfied now?" Charlotte turned and walked to the side of the road. Liang Xiao suddenly slapped Charlotte's neck. With a gust of wind at the back of his head, Charlotte leaped forward just in time to avoid Liang Xiao's sneak attack. Liang Xiao chased a step forward, and her jade-white legs under her short skirt whistled as she kicked Charlotte's crotch. Charlotte's knees suddenly pulled in, and with a clamp in the middle, he immediately clamped Liang Xiao's beautiful legs. Liang Xiao tried to twitch, but did not twitch. White calves, white thighs, and the black lace underneath the office lady's short skirt. This posture was as seductive as it could get. A man clamping his legs, a woman kicking her legs. This scene suddenly became a strange and seductive scenery. Charlotte's line of sight was very normal, but after inadvertently peeking at the black lace underneath, it became abnormal. His left eye uncontrollably twitched. A beautiful and mature scenery suddenly entered his eyes, and his whole body suddenly became stunned. Not good. "Hey!" Liang Xiao shouted and punched Charlotte's chest. Charlotte's chest burst out with a muffled sound, and then he was beaten back a few steps. A severe shock and pain hit him, and he coughed uncomfortably. Liang Xiao followed him to help him, and at the same time, she said with concern, "Are you okay? You could have dodged it. Why didn't you?" Charlotte somewhat nervously said, "That. You were too fast." After a pause, he then diverted Liang Xiao's attention. "I say, senior apprentice sister, can you not sneak attack me like this in the future?" Liang Xiao very stubbornly shook her head. "That won't do. The time you have to learn martial arts is already very short. If I don't supervise you and train you, when can you defeat my father and me? Why do I have to defeat you and master? Because this is your mission, Charlotte." Chapter 90. Charlotte and Liang Xiao finally chose a new building material company called Forrester. This company was also a newly established company, but it was very large in scale and had a wide range of products. In this company, Charlotte could buy all the new building materials needed for the workshop and office in one go. When Charlotte and Liang Xiao arrived at the Forrester company, they were received by a salesperson from the sales department. However, upon hearing Charlotte's intention of ordering a company's new building materials, the salesperson immediately called over the Forrester company CEO. "Hello, I'm Shun-Tu Shirshan. You can tell me if you need anything." The moment they met, the Forrester company's CEO introduced himself with a smile. Shun-Tu. Charlotte had an abnormal reaction from Shun-Tu Shirshan's self-introduction. "Excuse me, are you from the Shun-Tu family?" Shun-Tu Shirshan looked at Charlotte and probed. "Why? Does Mr. Xian know of our Shun-Tu family?" Charlotte smiled. "In the land of Haizhu, who doesn't know of your Shun-Tu family? I just never expected that this company belongs to your Shun-Tu family." Shun-Tu Shirshan said, "This company is a branch of the Wanxiang Corporation." After a pause, he said, "Let's not talk about matters that have nothing to do with business. Let's get down to business. We can provide a full range of services for your company, from the blueprints to the construction. You just need to pay the fees that you are supposed to bear." Charlotte said, "We can do the blueprints ourselves. You just need to be responsible for the materials and construction." Shun-Tu Shirshan said, "That's fine too. I'll bring you to see our products first. After you choose a product that you like, I'll give you a quote." "All right, please lead the way," Charlotte said. As they walked out of the reception room, Liang Xiao tugged at Charlotte's sleeve and whispered, "Is the Shun-Tu family very powerful?" Charlotte lowered his voice and said to her, "The richest family in China is the Shun-Tu family. Don't you think they're powerful?" Liang Xiao opened her cherry lips in an exaggerated manner. "They're really powerful. If you know someone from a Shun-Tu family, you must tell us. It's good to get a discount." Charlotte was slightly stunned as he thought of Shinta. Not only did he know Shinta, he had even saved Shinta's life. If he said it, Shun-Tu Shirshan would probably call him and ask him, and Shinta would probably give him a discount. But just as this thought popped up in his mind, he somehow changed his mind. "He's a noble, and I'm just a nobody. I know him, but he doesn't know me." Liang Xiao smiled and said, "I don't care about the nobility." Shun-Tu Shirshan took Charlotte and Liang Xiao to the Forrester Company's product exhibition center, which not only had a variety of new building materials produced by the Forrester Company, but also building models, buildings, warehouses, and so on built with new building materials. Charlotte and Liang Xiao strolled around the product exhibition center and chose some new building materials. Just as Charlotte was preparing to discuss the price with Shun-Tu Shirshan, a Forrester Company employee suddenly ran over and said with an excited expression, "Chief Shan, eldest miss is here." Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. "Could it be Shinta?" Shun-Tu Shirshan then said, "I'm sorry, I have to go for a while. You guys take a look first, then we'll discuss the price later." Charlotte said, "Okay, no problem." Shun-Tu Shirshan followed the employee out of the product exhibition center, but before the two of them could walk out of the product exhibition center, a group of people walked in from the main entrance. Walking right in front was the current leader of the Shun-Tu family clan, Shinta. Behind her were her bodyguards and assistants. Shinta was dressed in a long black dress, and she looked cold and beautiful. She did not like to wear revealing clothes, so the clothes she wore always covered most of her body. However, this did not affect her sexiness. A woman like her did not need to show her body to win a man's favor, nor did she need to use a sweet smile to move anyone. Hence, she was always cold, giving people a feeling of being 1,000 miles away. However, it was this kind of her that could make most men willingly submit to her with just a glance. She did not need to show anything, nor did she need to do anything. Her sexiness and her beauty had already conquered all the men. This was Shinta. Every time Charlotte saw her, he could not help but feel amazed. "Is she Shinta?" Liang Xiao asked softly. Charlotte said, "Yes, she is Shinta." Liang Xiao gently praised, "She's so beautiful." Liang Xiao had never seen Shinatianin before, but she could guess that it was her the first time she saw her. However, this was not because Liang Xiao had a strong analytical ability, but because Shinatianin's aura was too strong. She could easily tell that she was different from others. Shan went forward with a fawning smile. Tianin, why didn't you inform me in advance that you were coming? If you had informed me in advance, I could have made some arrangements. However, Tianin only glanced at Shan lightly. Without saying a word to Shan, she circled around Shan and walked towards Charlotte and Liang Xiao. Shan immediately froze in place. His face was filled with embarrassment and anger. This scene was also seen by Charlotte. He also found it strange as he thought to himself, Shan is also a member of the Shin family clan, but Tianin has such an attitude. It looks like she's not even a stranger. How strange. Tianin ignored Shan, but Shan still bit the bullet and chased after him. He maintained a fawning smile. Tianin, you are here for a routine inspection, right? I'll immediately get the finance department to prepare the accounts. If you want to go to the workshop, I'll bring you there. No need. Tianin finally spoke to Shan, but it was only 2 simple words. Shan gave Charlotte a look, indicating for Charlotte to leave. He did not know that Charlotte and Tianin actually knew each other. Charlotte did not have any intention of greeting Tianin. He said to Liang Xiao, let's go out for a while. Liang Xiao nodded and followed Charlotte to the door. Just as they were about to pass each other, Tianin suddenly said, Mr. Xia, why are you here? Charlotte was stunned for a moment, and his footsteps couldn't help but stop. This was the first time Tianin had taken the initiative to greet him. Back then, even when he told her that there was a bomb under her car, she didn't even look at him directly. Tianin looked at Charlotte, as if waiting for him to speak. Only then did Charlotte say, I'm here to buy some construction materials. Are you ready to build a factory? Tianin said. Why was she so talkative today? Charlotte was very curious in his heart, but he appeared very calm on the surface. Yes, the land has already been approved. I want to build the factory as soon as possible. Tianin said, I've heard about that land. You slapped Huang Yihu in the face, which is equivalent to slapping the Gu family in the face. Well done. This seemed to be the reason why she was so talkative today. On the surface, the Shinta family clan and the Gu family were harmonious, but in the business world, they viewed each other as the strongest competitors. Over the years, they had been fighting openly and covertly, so there was already a deep grudge between them. Someone had thrown a stone at the Gu family's watchdog. Although it was the dog that was hit, the dog's owner was also disgraced. She was happy to see such a thing happen. Charlotte did not say anything, but he politely smiled. Liang Xiao interrupted and said, Miss Shintu, hello. I'm Director Xiao's assistant. Then, can you give us a discount? Tianin only glanced at Liang Xiao lightly. Our price is already the lowest in the market. Even if I were to buy it myself, there would be no discount. Liang Xiao's face originally had a smile on it, but Tianin's words made her feel terrible. The smile on her face also disappeared. Tianin did not say another word and walked away. Liang Xiao grunted lightly and said unhappily, What's so great about that? Is being rich that great? Charlotte patted her on the shoulder and said with a smile, Don't be angry. In the future, you'll be richer than her. The anger in Liang Xiao's heart dissipated as quickly as it came. Okay, then give me an annual salary of 5 or 6 billion. In that case, I'll probably be richer than her in a few to 10 years. Then sell me. Charlotte said, All right, who should I sell to? How about the circus? Liang Xiao giggled and said, I'll tie a rope around your neck, and then you will perform a monkey show to earn money for me. All right? You dare call me a monkey? See how I'll deal with you. Charlotte chased after her and hit her. The two of them laughed and walked out. They had already forgotten what had happened just now. However, just as the two of them were about to walk out of the door, Tianin stopped and looked back at Charlotte's back. Then he said, Fifth uncle, give this Mr. Xia a cost price. Shinta Shan said in surprise. Tianyin, didn't you just say that there was no discount? Why are you giving him a discount again? Shinta Tianyin said, let the finance prepare the accounts. I'll go to the workshop to take a look. Shinta Shan was stunned for a moment, and then said, all right, Little Wong, go and let the finance prepare the accounts immediately. I'll take Tianyin to the workshop to take a look. However, he secretly said in his heart, it seems that Tianyin and that Xia kid know each other, but why didn't he give the Xia kid a discount in person? Giving the cost price and not letting the other party know? What is this called? Shinta Tianyin said again, fifth uncle, you go and talk to Mr. Xia. I'll go to the workshop myself. This? All right, I'll go now. Shinta Shan turned around and walked towards the door. Charlotte and Liang Xiao stood in the product exhibition center for less than 2 minutes before Shinta Shan walked out. Mr. Xia, Miss Liang, come with me to my office. Let's continue talking. Shinta Shan's attitude was clearly much better than before. Charlotte said, aren't you going to accompany Miss Tianyin? She doesn't need me to accompany her. Shinta Shan led the way and probed, by the way, Mr. Xia, how do you know our Tianyin? For a moment, Charlotte wanted to tell Shinta Shan about what had happened at Dongfeng Heavy Industry, but he suppressed this thought in the blink of an eye. He said, we don't know each other. We only met once. So that's how it is. Shinta Shan said, but he didn't believe Charlotte's words at all. Arriving at Shinta Shan's office, Charlotte handed a list to Shinta Shan. Shinta Shan tapped the calculator and casually said, the material cost is 7 million, and the construction fee is 20% of the material cost. The total is 4 million. Ah, that much. Charlotte was shocked. Shinta Shan's face revealed a strange smile. But you guys are lucky. Today is our company's 2nd anniversary. According to convention, you will receive a 40% discount. He tapped the calculator a few more times and then said, a total of 4 million. This number is not good. You can give us an extra 40,000. A total of 8 million. What do you think? Charlotte was still in a daze. He didn't know where his mind had flown to. Liang Xiao's reaction was fast. She followed up and said, all right, 508. That's a good number. When do we pay? Shinta Shan said, we can pay now or pay after the completion. Mr. Xia, how do you want to pay? Charlotte didn't say anything. At this time, he thought of Shinta Tianyin. He wasn't a fool. He knew that it was Shinta Tianyin's intention for Shinta Shan to give such a discount. Liang Xiao kicked Charlotte under the table. Director Xia, when do you want to pay? Charlotte came back to his senses. Full payment now. Okay, I'll have my secretary prepare the contract now. Shinta Shan stood up and extended a hand to Charlotte. Happy cooperation. Charlotte also stood up and shook hands with Shinta Shan. Happy cooperation. He secretly said in his heart, I will definitely return this favor to her in the future. Chapter 91. It was already late afternoon when he left the Forster New Building Materials Company. Charlotte did not see Shinta Tianyin's Rolls-Royce Phantom. Presumably, she left when he signed the contract with Shinta Shan. The car slowly drove into the driveway and headed for the city. Liang Xiao broke the silence. She said with a smile, today's luck is really good. Charlotte said casually, yes, it's really good luck. Liang Xiao looked straight at Charlotte. But I think there's something wrong here. Don't you think it's strange? Charlotte knew what she wanted to say, but he didn't want to talk about the story between him and Shinta Tianyin. He changed the subject. Don't you want to go to my house for dinner? Sweet and sour ribs, seafood, and so on. Let's go to the supermarket to buy groceries. Oh, if you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Hurry up, let's go to the supermarket. I'm hungry. Liang Xiao's mind shifted to the food. In fact, with her intelligence, she had already guessed that there must be something between Shinta Tianyin when he took the initiative to talk to Charlotte. But curiosity was curiosity, and she was not the kind of woman who would break the casserole and get to the bottom of it. Charlotte stepped on the accelerator, and the Great Wall H6 sped on the road. While driving, Charlotte was also thinking about things in his heart. After paying $5.08 million to the Forster Construction Company, plus the $1 million land fees he had previously paid to the Land Bureau, he had only $500,000 in cash and $1 million that had not yet been paid by Shinjo Industrial Company. Now, every penny had to be used sparingly. However, the financial aspect did not bring him too much pressure because Mayer, who had stated that if there was any difficulty, he could go to him. So once the funds were exhausted and there was no rice to cook, he could go to Mayer, who was a guarantee to get a bank loan. If it didn't work, he could also find Shinjo Industrial Company to advance the payment. In short, after solving the two big problems of land and building a factory, his dream was almost 60% realized. This made him happy. After returning to the city, Charlotte bought a lot of ingredients from a supermarket near the neighborhood. He even specially bought a box of Jiangyu dry red wine. Then he drove Liang Xiao, the foodie, and a lot of ingredients back to the neighborhood. After parking the car, Charlotte and Liang Xiao each carried a few big bags of ingredients and walked toward the stairwell. Suddenly, a beautiful figure walked out from the stairwell. With her well-ironed uniform and bright smile, Jiang Rui was like a tulip blooming in the green belt of the residential area, beautiful, elegant, and eye-catching. "Oh, isn't this Lei Zi from our community?" Jiang Rui greeted him with a smile. "You bought such delicious food. Is it someone's birthday today?" Charlotte said, "No one's birthday. I just invited my martial sister to my house for a meal." He then introduced, "Xiao, this is Jiang Rui. Rui, this is my martial sister, Liang Xiao." Liang Xiao and Jiang Rui had actually met a long time ago. Liang Xiao had also seen Jiang Rui's ID and knew that she was the police chief. However, she did not have a good impression of Jiang Rui, because that night, Jiang Rui took the drunk Charlotte away from her and rudely asked her to call a taxi back. She would not easily forgive Jiang Rui for this matter. Charlotte introduced them, but Jiang Rui and Liang Xiao did not greet each other, nor did they shake hands. They just looked at each other. Charlotte said a little awkwardly, "Do you know each other?" Jiang Rui said no. Liang Xiao said no. Charlotte could not be bothered anymore. He carried the groceries and walked to the stairwell. "I'm going to cook. You guys can chat." Jiang Rui suddenly said, "I want to go to your house for dinner too." Charlotte's head hurt a little. He braced himself and said, "All right, help me get the red wine from the trunk." Jiang Rui went to the trunk and took out the box of Jiangyu dry red wine. She even smiled provocatively at Liang Xiao. Liang Xiao suddenly imitated Jiang Rui's tone. "Ayo, isn't this our lazy? So mushy." Jiang Rui did not feel awkward at all. "Our neighborhood is a big family, and we live together. Is it wrong for me to say that our lazy is our lazy? Besides, what does what I say have to do with you?" Liang Xiao said, "I'm her martial sister. I'm worried that she's not careful with her friends." Jiang Rui said, "I grew up with her. If we're talking about not being careful with her friends, it's now that she's being careless with her friends." The two women were at loggerheads with no rhyme or reason at all. At this time, Charlotte poked his head out from the balcony on the second floor. "Can you guys come up and talk? I want to cook. What can I do without food?" Liang Xiao and Jiang Rui then went upstairs. The two women went upstairs and entered Charlotte's house. Soon, they were at loggerheads again. Jiang Rui said, "Lazy, I'll help you." Nowadays, many women don't even know how to wash vegetables. These women are the parasites of society. Liang Xiao glanced at the messy living room and said, "Lazy, your house is so messy. I'll help you tidy it up." Some women talk as if they're good at cooking. In the end, they're just here to eat and drink. These women are the parasites of society, right? Charlotte's head drooped down powerlessly. Charlotte cooked and Charlotte cooked. The woman who said she would help him lay on the sofa in the living room and watch a variety show in less than 5 minutes. The woman who helped him clean up the room was also sitting on the sofa and watching the same show, laughing from time to time. He suddenly felt that women were not reliable. Men were the most reliable. After working for an hour, Charlotte made a table of good dishes: sweet and sour pork ribs, spicy eggplant with garlic sauce, hot prawns, steamed scallops, and so on. The table was full of dishes. Every dish was delicious. Just looking at them made people feel that they were delicious. Charlotte was forced to cook. His mother passed away early and his father disappeared mysteriously. He had to take care of his sister's food and drink. However, it was only after his left I had mutated that his culinary skills improved. When cooking his left, I could observe the slightest changes in the ingredients, so he could always stir-fry the ingredients to their most delicious state. His left, I gave him a unique way to add seasonings. The amount was always just right. Other chefs could only add seasonings based on experience. They couldn't reach his level of perfection. Looking at the table full of delicacies, Xia Lei smiled in relief. He thought to himself, if I have time, I should read some books about food. With my current ability, even if I change my profession to become a chef, I should be able to learn to the best level, right? Before Charlotte said anything, Jiang Rui and Liang Xiao were attracted by the aroma of the food. Wow, it's so rich. Jiang Rui couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Liang Xiao's eyes were also shining. She looked very happy. I didn't expect you to cook so well. It seems that I'll have to visit your house often in the future. Jiang Rui muttered, You're so thick-skinned. Charlotte opened a bottle of red wine, but he remembered that he didn't buy goblets. He had to pour 3 bowls, one for Jiang Rui, one for Liang Xiao, and one for himself. He said awkwardly, I forgot to buy goblets. Let's drink with bowls. Liang Xiao said with a smile, What's wrong with drinking with bowls? It's more enjoyable to drink with bowls. Jiang Rui couldn't wait to put a hot prawn in her mouth. After wolfing it down, she gave Charlotte a thumbs up. Delicious, delicious. It's even better than what I ate at the seafood restaurant. Make me another portion later. I'll bring it home to eat. Charlotte, the delicious food made the 2 women's mouths shut. Watching them enjoy the food he cooked with relish, Charlotte felt that he should learn cooking skills. The dishes he could cook now were the dishes he knew how to cook before. He had never studied cooking skills at all. It was foreseeable that with his current ability, if he focused on studying culinary arts, no one could say for sure how high his level in this aspect would be if he focused on it. After all, no chef in the world could see the internal changes of the ingredients when cooking, nor could they see the integration of the ingredients and seasonings. However, he could do these 2 things. After dinner, Jiang Rui and Liang Xiao went to watch TV with satisfaction. No one even cleaned up the dishes. Charlotte shook his head with a wry smile. He cleaned up the dishes and went to the kitchen. Just after washing the dishes, Charlotte's cell phone suddenly rang. He took out his cell phone and glanced at it. It was Qin Xiang's number. Why is she calling me at this time? Charlotte felt a little strange, but he still slid the answer button. Lazy, something happened. Qin Xiang's voice was very anxious and a little panicked. Charlotte's heart suddenly sank. Don't panic. Tell me what happened. My shop was burned. Qin Xiang's voice was filled with pain. I'm guessing that Huang Yihu must know that I'm in contact with you. He's starting to take revenge on me now. If he gives my information to the police, I'm finished. Where are you now? Where else can I be? Qin Xiang smiled bitterly. I am outside my hair salon, watching it burn. Don't worry. I will come right away. We will talk when we meet. Charlotte said. Okay, I will wait for you. Qin Xiang hung up the phone. Charlotte followed her out of the kitchen. I have a friend who is in a little trouble. I have to go and see. What trouble? Do you need me to go with you? Liang Xiao said. Jiang Rui also said, Do you need my help? Charlotte said, No, it's just a small matter. You guys do as you please. I will go first. Without saying much, Charlotte rushed out of the door. Qin Xiang's hair salon was burned. This matter was most likely done by Huang Yihu. In the beginning, if he hadn't found Qin Xiang and asked Qin Xiang to deal with Huang Yihu with him, Qin Xiang's hair salon wouldn't have been destroyed. Because of this reason, Charlotte's heart was more or less guilty. Even if there was no such thing, if Qin Xiang was in trouble, he would not hesitate to stand up for her, because he was never the kind of person who would burn the bridge after crossing it. Jiang Rui and Liang Xiao stood on the balcony on the 2nd floor and watched Charlotte drive the Great Wall H6 out of the gate of the community. Then the 2 women looked at each other. What made him so anxious? Jiang Rui's voice. I don't know, but you don't have to worry. My dad's last disciple is very powerful. Liang Xiao said, Humph, do you really think of yourself as a martial arts heroine? Am I talking to you? Chapter 92. By the time Charlotte arrived, the fire brigade had already put out the fire. Thick smoke billowed out of the broken window. People who liked to watch the fun stopped to watch from afar and talked about it. Charlotte found Qin Xiang at the edge of the crowd. His face was extremely pale. Charlotte also saw tears at the corner of his eyes. He had obviously been crying. Charlotte walked to Qin Xiang's side and gently patted Qin Xiang's shoulder. He comforted her and said, Don't be sad. How about you stop cutting hair in the future and work for me? Qin Xiang looked back at Charlotte and was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, she threw herself into Charlotte's arms and sobbed. A man was in his arms, and this man was crying in his arms. Charlotte felt extremely strange. However, he didn't push Qin Xiang away because he knew that what Qin Xiang needed most at this time was comfort. After crying for a while, Qin Xiang raised her head from Charlotte's shoulder and looked at Charlotte with tears in her eyes. I want to kill him. I must kill him this time. This hair salon was everything to me, but he destroyed it. Don't be impulsive. If you are impulsive, then you'll be fooled by Huang Yihu. Charlotte's heart was also filled with anger, but he knew very well that at times like this, he needed to be calm. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. A series of cell phone ringtones suddenly rang. Charlotte took out his cell phone and glanced at it. It was an unfamiliar number. He hesitated for a moment and slid the answer button. A woman's voice came from the phone. Boss, yeah. Several of my classmates were beaten by them. Sob, sob. This was Guan Lingshan's voice. Charlotte quickly recognized it. His heart suddenly sank, and he said anxiously, Is it Lingshan? Calm down and tell me slowly. What happened? Guan Lingshan's voice came from the phone again. My classmates and I, we stayed up late at the construction site to measure and draw drawings. A group of people suddenly rushed over and smashed our measuring equipment. Boo-hoo. They even injured a few of our classmates. Those people threatened us. They said that if we work with you, they would kill us. Boo-hoo. Charlotte's anger flared up. Where are they now? They smashed the equipment, beat up people, and then left. Charlotte gritted his teeth. Where are you now? We are in the hospital. We don't have that much money. The hospital won't treat us. Guan Lingshan cried as she spoke. Charlotte suppressed the anger in his heart and comforted her. Lingshan, don't cry and don't be afraid. Tell me which hospital you're in, and I'll come over right away to pay. Guan Lingshan sobbed. We're at the People's Hospital. Wait for me. I'll be right there. Charlotte hung up the phone. Just now, he was so angry that he almost crushed the phone. First, Qin Xiang's hair salon was burned, and then the workers were beaten. This was obviously Huang Yihu's revenge for the loss of the land. Huang Yihu sent people to beat up your workers? Qin Xiang looked surprised. Charlotte said, Yes, I'm going to the construction site now. You stay here and we'll talk tomorrow. However, Qin Xiang said, No, I'll go with you. The salon has been destroyed. It's useless for me to stay. Charlotte didn't think much and said, Well, let's go to the construction site. The Great Wall H6 ran on the road like an enraged beast. What are you going to do? Qin Xiang broke the silence in the car and looked at Charlotte with some worry. Charlotte's eyes were cold. If he bites me, I'll stab him. You're going to kill him? Qin Xiang's eyes were even more worried. Just now, he wanted to kill Huang Yihu, but now he knew that it was definitely not a good idea. Charlotte sneered. That's too easy for him. I want him to lose everything and live a life worse than death. Qin Xiang was a little confused. Do you already have a way to deal with him? Charlotte nodded. Let's go to the hospital to see our classmates first, and then we'll talk. Look for an ATM machine on the side of the road. Tell me when you see it. I need to withdraw some money. Qin Xiang was about to nod when he saw an ICBC automated service hall. He raised his hand and pointed. There's one there. 20 minutes later, Charlotte arrived at the People's Hospital with Qin Xiang. After entering the hospital, Charlotte saw Guan Lingshan, Yi Hao, Han Bo, and others in the corridor of the emergency room. Some of them were standing in the corridor, and some were sitting on the waiting chairs outside the doctor's clinic. Some of them had injuries on their heads, and there were bloodstains on their faces. Some had torn clothes and lost a shoe, and some had bruises on their bodies. Their youthful and lively aura could no longer be found on them. They were like a group of beggars waiting for relief, destitute and dejected, Boss Xia is here. Boss Xia is here. Hanbo, whose face was swollen, shouted. A large group of classmates rushed over, their eyes filled with gratitude and anticipation. Guan Lingshan stood in front of Charlotte. She had also been beaten. Her glasses were broken, and there was no glass on one side. Although there was glass on the other side, there were a few cracks. Guan Lingshan cried when she saw Charlotte. Boss Yao, we don't have money. The hospital. Come with me. Charlotte grabbed Guan Lingshan's hand and strode to the doctor's clinic. Because it was nighttime, there was only one doctor in the clinic. The doctor on duty was a male doctor in his 30s. He was sitting there playing with his phone. When Charlotte pulled Guan Lingshan in, he didn't even look at her. He said coldly, "Didn't I tell you? The hospital is not a charity. We don't have money. How can we treat you without money?" As soon as he finished speaking, a plastic bag was smashed on the desk. A stack of bills rolled out of the plastic bag. It was brand new, and it glowed temptingly under the light. The doctor on duty looked up in surprise. Only then did he see the angry Charlotte standing in front of him. They didn't bring money, so you don't care about their lives? Charlotte said angrily. How did you learn to be a doctor? Didn't your teacher teach you that human lives are important? The doctor on duty stood up. This is the hospital's rule. How can we treat them without money? Why are you yelling at me? If you have the ability, go and find the director. If you make any more noise, I'll get the security to kick you out and find the hospital that treats you without money. Charlotte suddenly punched the doctor's desk. This punch was so strong that the whole desk jumped. When Charlotte moved his fist away, there was a hole on the desk. The doctor's face turned pale with fright. Charlotte pointed at the doctor's nose. His eyes were cold. You better be smart, or you'll be this desk. The doctor nodded timidly. He had never seen a person who could punch a desk. Moreover, at this moment, Charlotte didn't look like a good person. He looked like a gangster who didn't care about his life. Such a person. How could a little doctor dare to provoke him? Hurry up and treat them. Charlotte roared. Right away. But you take the money to the cashier. I won't collect money. I'm treating the patient. Who's first? The doctor didn't even wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. He immediately entered the working state. This was the way of the world. Those with soft fists were afraid of those with hard fists. Those with lives were afraid of those who didn't care about their lives. The doctor began to treat the patient. He didn't even wait for Charlotte's payment receipt. Charlotte paid the advance payment at the cashier's office. Then, he took out 50,000 yuan and gave it to Guan Lingshan. Guan Lingshan looked at Charlotte in surprise. President Xia, what are you doing? Why are you giving me money? Charlotte said, Take this money. Tomorrow, buy clothes and nutrition for your classmates. You also need to change a pair of glasses. The rest, you distribute according to the number of people. How can this be? Guan Lingshan wanted to return the money to Charlotte. Charlotte pressed her hand. This money is given to you by the company. You can rest assured and take it. Also, I won't let you be beaten up. Go. I will seek justice for you. Guan Lingshan held the thick stack of money and was moved to tears. The classmates standing next to Guan Lingshan were also very moved. It was really a good thing to be able to follow such a loyal boss. President Xia, those people are gangsters. You don't have to fight with them. In-house said, we were just beaten up. It's okay. We'll be fine in 2 days. Hanbo also said, yes, President Xia, you are the boss of our company. You don't have to care about those gangsters. Charlotte said, don't worry. I have my own way of dealing with it. By the way, did you call the police? Guan Lingshan said, yes. Before you came, the police came to the construction site and said that they were chasing after those gangsters. They didn't show up again after that. A group of students who had just graduated from school were beaten up by gangsters on the street. No one was killed. It was hard to guess how much attention the police would pay to this kind of thing. Guanling Shan said again. I wanted to call Miss Liang, but I thought that she was a woman and it would be better not to tell her about it. So I called you. Charlotte said, You handled it very well. You can rest tomorrow. You don't have to go to the construction site anymore. No, we're going to the construction site, Hanbo said. Hanbo said, We've already measured the land and the sketch is out. We'll be able to complete the design in 2 days. How can we not go? Yes, we're going. We're not afraid of them, someone said. Charlotte was moved. Well, since you insist on going to the construction site, I'll ask Miss Liang to take care of you. Miss Liang? If those gangsters come again. Hanbo looked very worried. Charlotte said, You don't have to worry about that. If she guards the construction site, those gangsters are no match for her at all. The students looked surprised. They didn't know Liang Xiao's other identity at all. She was a Wing Chun master. It was already 2 hours later when they left the hospital. It was late at night, and the streets were deserted. There were no pedestrians or vehicles. What should we do now? Qin Xiang asked. Charlotte said, Make trouble for Huang Yihu. Do you really want to go to the fishing villa? Qin Xiang said, Maybe he's already set up a trap there and is waiting for us to jump in. Charlotte shook his head. I didn't say to go to the fishing villa. I said to go to his company. To his company? Qin Xiang was stunned for a moment. Charlotte said, Let's go. Now is the time for you to show your strength. Qin Xiang seemed to have guessed Charlotte's purpose. He shrugged and said with a wry smile, Well, I'll take it as a compliment. Chapter 93. Huang Yihu had many businesses under his name, and the biggest and most profitable one was naturally New Moon Real Estate Company. Huang Yihu racked his brains to get the 13th plot in order to build buildings and make money. In the end, the 13th plot was bought by Charlotte at a price of 1 million yuan. This matter had become a laughingstock in the business circle of Haizhu City. How could Huang Yihu let it go? Huang Yihu wanted to establish his power. He chose to attack the people around Charlotte, but he never expected that he would poke a hornet's nest just as he started his revenge. At 1 o'clock in the morning, a Great Wall H6 with its front and rear license plates removed slowly stopped outside the wall of New Moon Real Estate Company's office building. The door opened, and 2 young men with their faces covered got out of the car. Then the 2 climbed onto the roof of the car, climbed over the wall, and jumped directly into the inner courtyard of the office building. The 2 young men with their faces covered were Qin Xiang and Charlotte. After entering the inner courtyard, the 2 crept along the wall to the outer wall of the office building. The office building was 4 stories high, and there were surveillance cameras installed in front of it, but there were no in the backyard. Charlotte's left eye twitched slightly, and the wall disappeared from his left eye's sight. The situation in the hall entered his sight. The lights in the hall were on, and a security guard was sitting on the sofa playing with his mobile phone. It was unknown whether he was using Momo to pick up girls or scrolling through his WeChat moments. Qin Xiang gestured for Charlotte to squat down, then pointed to the windowsill on the 2nd floor. Charlotte understood and squatted down. Qin Xiang stepped on his hand and climbed onto his shoulder, then slowly climbed up with the help of the wall. After standing up, Qin Xiang struggled to jump up. He grabbed the windowsill on the 2nd floor with both hands, then pulled up with both arms. He was on the windowsill on the 2nd floor. Charlotte looked up at Qin Xiang, who was standing on the windowsill on the 2nd floor, and made a reaching gesture. Qin Xiang gestured to Charlotte to pause, then took out a wire and inserted it into the window, fiddled with it, and opened the window. He flipped over and entered the window. Then, he lowered a knotted rope from the window. Charlotte grabbed the rope and leaned back. He stepped on the wall and quickly climbed to the 2nd floor. Then, he jumped through the window and entered the building. It was an office with a desk, filing cabinets, and a water dispenser. Charlotte quickly completed his search. This office was just an ordinary employee's office. It had no value at all. Do you know where Huang Yihu's office is? Charlotte asked softly. Although he knew that this New Moon Real Estate Company was the biggest and most important business under Huang Yihu's name, he didn't know where Huang Yihu's office was. Qin Xiang said, I don't know. It's my first time here. However, Huang Yihu likes to be superior and control everything. I guess his office must be higher than other people's offices. Maybe it's on the 4th floor. Charlotte raised his head and looked at the ceiling above his head. Qin Xiang said, "You can't see his office like this. Let's search from the 2nd floor to the next floor. We can always find Huang Yihu's office." Charlotte was still looking up at the ceiling above his head. Qin Xiang walked gently to the door and gently opened it. Then, she put her head in front of the door to observe the situation outside. At this time, Charlotte said, "Don't look. There are surveillance cameras in the corridor. One in front and one in the back. We will be discovered as soon as we go out." Qin Xiang retracted his head and gently closed the door. He looked at Charlotte with a strange look. "There are surveillance cameras. How did you know?" Charlotte didn't answer his question. Instead, he said, "Huang Yihu's office is indeed on the 4th floor. It's a straight line. If we climb the wall, we can enter his office." "You," Qin Xiang said in surprise. "How do you know so clearly?" Charlotte said, "I just remembered that I have seen the design of this building." This explanation seemed to be late, but it was very reasonable. Qin Xiang shook his head and walked to the window. She muttered, "You should have told me earlier. I almost walked out. I will be caught by the surveillance cameras." Charlotte followed Qin Xiang to the window and then followed him to the windowsill. This time, Qin Xiang didn't let Charlotte squat down. He stepped out of the windowsill, grabbed the drainage pipe hanging from the roof, and then climbed up with his hands and feet. Charlotte was worried that the drainage pipe wouldn't be able to bear the weight of 2 people. When Qin Xiang climbed to the windowsill on the 4th floor, he followed Qin Xiang's actions, stepped out, grabbed the drainage pipe, and climbed up. He had never done such a thing before, but when he worked in the industrial and commercial department, he had climbed scaffolding that was higher than this. So, he quickly adapted and climbed to the windowsill on the 4th floor. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte and said in a low voice, "You have the talent to be a thief. Why don't we work together?" Charlotte said, "Don't joke. Now is not the time to joke. Open the window." Qin Xiang took out his wire again, put it through the window, and hooked it to the window latch. Then she gently lifted it up, and the window opened with a click. Charlotte followed Qin Xiang into the room behind the window. This was indeed Huang Yihu's office. The space was several times larger than the previous office, and the office furniture was several times more high-end. There was a large photo hanging on the wall opposite the desk. It was a photo of Huang Yihu shaking hands with a leader. In the photo, Huang Yihu had a smile on his face and looked high-spirited. There was also a large bookshelf in the office. There were many books on the bookshelf, but those books were new, and there was no trace of them being flipped. Huang Yihu, a nouveau riche who came from the underworld, obviously didn't have the habit of reading. The books here were just decorations to add to the elegance. There was also a lounge in the office, which had a large double bed, a set of leather sofas, a wine cabinet, and a large-capacity refrigerator with 3 doors. Qin Xiang went to the bedside and opened the bedside table. There were a lot of women's belongings, such as stockings, mesh bras, thongs, and several boxes of condoms. He gently spat, "Damn, that beast really knows how to enjoy himself." At a glance, this lounge was obviously the combat room of Huang Yihu and his female secretary. People like him couldn't do without this kind of game. Qin Xiang continued to search for useful things, but Charlotte just stood at the door and watched. "Help me find it," Qin Xiang said. "It was your idea to find evidence of Huang Yihu's bribery. Don't just stand there and watch, okay?" Charlotte said, "You are in charge of here, and I am in charge of the office." After that, he left the door of the lounge and retreated into the office. In fact, when Qin Xiang opened the bedside table and found a lot of messy things, he had already used the ability of his left eye to search the entire lounge. Unfortunately, he didn't find what he wanted at all, such as the secret account book, the USB flash drive, etc. After retreating into the office, Charlotte rested and adjusted his left eye's X-ray ability again. His eyes slowly swept through all the office furniture and walls. Soon, his eyes stopped on Huang Yihu's desk. Under the desk was a wooden cabinet, but inside the wooden cabinet was a safe embedded in the floor, including the part that was embedded in the concrete. The height of the safe was about 1 meter, and it was very thick. There was not only a turntable lock on the door panel of the safe, but also an electronic password lock. Charlotte's left eye searched slightly. In the vision of his left, I was like a chisel drilling into the safe. After a few seconds, he saw the situation inside the safe. Inside the safe was a notebook with a leather cover, a portable hard drive, some US dollars, some euros, and a dozen gold bars. There were also some paper items, such as documents and certificates. Found it. Charlotte's heart was filled with excitement. It seemed unusual for Huang Yihu to put these important things in his office, but after a careful analysis of his identity, it was his shrewdness and cunning. He came from the underworld and had many enemies. He often changed his residence, and he couldn't carry these things with him all the time. They were placed in the most advanced safe in the office of his most important company. Without his double password, who could open his safe? If they couldn't open his safe, who could steal the safe that was fixed in the concrete? The weight of the safe was at least 500 kilograms. At this time, Qin Xiang walked out of the lounge. He was a little depressed and said, "I didn't find anything. It was full of disgusting things." Charlotte didn't say anything. He walked to the desk and reached out to open the wooden door of the safe. Qin Xiang looked at the safe that appeared behind the wooden door and was instantly dumbfounded. He was stunned for a while before he said, "F***CK? This is a Dotling brand safe that was imported from Germany. Even my master can't open it." "Your master?" Charlotte squatted in front of the safe and asked casually as he looked at it. Qin Xiang also squatted beside Charlotte. "Even if I told you, you wouldn't know it. He also wouldn't let me tell anyone, so don't ask. I advise you to give up. This safe needs 2 passwords. One is a turntable lock, and the other is an electronic password lock. Without either one, it can't be opened. Do you know how much a safe like this costs? It's 5 million. Huang Yihu must have put his most important things here, but he punched the floor under his feet and said bitterly, "Huang Yihu's secret is right in front of us, but we can only look at his safe." Charlotte said, "You're an expert in this business. Can't you open it?" Qin Xiang shook his head. "If I could open it, would I ask you to give up?" Charlotte was silent for a moment and then said, "Let me try." "You?" Qin Xiang was stunned on the spot. Charlotte stretched out his hand. Qin Xiang grabbed Charlotte's hand. "Don't joke. I can't open it. How can you open it? Let's go. Don't alert the enemy. We'll think of another way." Charlotte said, "Do you want to open the electronic lock or the turntable lock first?" Qin Xiang said with a wry smile, "Why are you so stubborn? We'll open the electronic lock first." Charlotte's eyes were fixed on the keyboard of the electronic lock. In the vision of his left eye, the keyboard was magnified little by little and became extremely clear. It was so clear that he could see a speck of dust on it. Not only did he see the dust that was difficult to see with the naked eye on the keyboard, but he also saw some fingerprints. The fingers had sweat glands, and the places touched by the sweaty fingers would leave fingerprints. This was unavoidable. Soon, Charlotte eliminated 3 keys without fingerprints, leaving 6 numeric keys, 9, 7, 3, 2, 1, 5. The password was in the combination of these 6 numbers, but there were too many password strings that could be formed by 6 numbers. If he tried them one by one, he might be wrong by tomorrow morning. However, Charlotte still had his way to solve this problem. Chapter 94. According to people's typing habits, the first digit of the password was usually pressed the heaviest, and then the last digit was usually pressed the lightest. This was because by the time the last digit was pressed, the person's brain was already thinking about what would happen after entering the password. So, the heaviest number would have the most obvious marks on the key, and the lightest mark would have the least and not too obvious. Using this method, Charlotte quickly sorted out the first digit, 1, and the last digit, 2. Then, there were only 4 numbers left, which were 9, 7, 3, 5. How would these 4 numbers be combined? In Charlotte's mind, a document that he had seen in the Beigong District Police Station's archive room appeared. On that document, Huang Yihu's birth date was December 9th, 1973. Huang Yihu's birth date had 9, 7, and 3. The numbers matched the marks on the keyboard, but not completely. Charlotte secretly pondered in his heart, Could it be that he didn't use his birthday number? What kind of secret would a person like Huang Yihu use? In Charlotte's mind, Huang Yihu's son, Huang Su's birth date, May 1st, 2000, appeared. This set of numbers had 2, 5, and 1 that matched. A series of number combinations changed in his mind. In his left eye also compared the marks on the keyboard one by one. About 2 minutes later, a password string of numbers was born in his mind, 973251. This password was a combination of Huang Yihu and his son, Huang Su's birthday. Using this method to eliminate the first and last digits, there was only the sequence of 4 numbers left. Charlotte reached out and entered 973251 on the keyboard. There was a light click from the electronic lock, and it was unlocked. How do you know the password? Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte in surprise, unable to believe the strange thing he had seen. Charlotte didn't explain, but reached out and grabbed the turn button of the turntable. But at this moment, footsteps and voices came from the corridor outside the door. Big Brother is really something. He even asked us to come to the company in the middle of the night to have a look. Is that brat named Charlotte so powerful? You've made Big Brother so nervous. It was a man's voice. Charlotte is not a simple character. Have you forgotten? He actually used 1 million to buy the land that Big Brother wanted to buy. You should know that even if it was our Big Brother, he would need 81 million to buy a piece of land. Another voice said, that's because he has someone protecting him. Do you think he would come here to steal it this time? I don't think so. He probably doesn't even know this place. The sound of their footsteps and conversation could be heard approaching Huang Yihu's office. Charlotte and Qin Xiang looked at each other. Charlotte was fine, but Qin Xiang became nervous. Qin Xiang pulled out a knife. Charlotte pressed Qin Xiang's hand and pointed to the lounge. Qin Xiang nodded and followed Charlotte to hide in the lounge. When Xiaolei left the desk, he did not forget to close the cabinet door of the desk. Although he had unlocked the electronic lock on the safe, it couldn't be seen at all. Just as the two hid under the bed, the office door opened. Someone turned on the light, looked at it, and then walked to the lounge. I told you that there was no situation, but Big Brother didn't listen. A man complained. Look, we came here for nothing again. It's better to be careful. Qin Xiang, that be *TCH, betrayed Big Brother. He is a cat burglar and is very good at stealing. Big Brother is guarding against Qin Xiang and that brat. Did you forget that Big Brother has something on that brat? Another man said, that brat's hair salon was burned. Unfortunately, it didn't burn him to death. It will happen sooner or later. No one who goes against our Big Brother will have a good ending. Qin Xiang won't live, and that Xia brat won't escape either. The two talked at the door of the lounge, and their eyes were also searching the lounge. However, they didn't lie down to look under the bed. After all, the office and lounge looked normal. Charlotte and Qin Xiang were lying under the bed. Qin Xiang looked very nervous. It seemed that she was worried that Huang Yihu's men would suddenly walk to the bed, lie down, and then point the black muzzle at her. Charlotte felt much better. Although there was a bed between them, he could still see the situation of Huang Yihu's 2 men. He knew the situation of Huang Yihu's 2 men at any time, so he could take the initiative, so he wasn't very worried. The vision of his left eye penetrated the wooden board, the mattress, and the quilt. At a glance, Charlotte recognized the 2 men standing at the door of the lounge talking to each other, and they were 2 of Huang Yihu's men. They were 2 of Huang Yihu's 4 personal bodyguards, and they also had guns. In the early morning, Huang Yihu asked his 2 personal bodyguards to guard the safe in his office. It was not difficult to see how important the things in the safe were. It's safe here. There's nothing wrong. One of the bodyguards said, why don't we have a drink? Big Brother's wine is of the highest quality. Usually, he won't let us into his lounge. Today is a chance. Oh, you think the same as me. I've been wanting to drink a glass of Big Brother's Lafite for a long time. The other bodyguard said with a smile. The 2 bodyguards walked to the wine cabinet, took out a bottle of expensive Lafite wine and a bottle of Maodai, and then took the glasses to drink. Damn, they're drinking. If they don't leave here, I'll have to find a chance to knock them out. Charlotte thought so. Even if more people were alarmed, he planned to take the risk. After all, there was only one chance. The two bodyguards drank on the sofa. They first drank red wine, and then drank white wine. Chinese people drank red wine just for fun, to catch up with the fashion, but the real addiction was white wine. As Charlotte drank, Qin Xiang quietly lay under the bed and waited. A bodyguard turned on the TV and played a CD. The CD was a CD from Japan, a love action film. The room was full of seductive screams, intermittent Japanese, and some strange sounds. Charlotte could understand those Japanese words. Brother, be gentle, and so on. In addition, there was an androgynous Qin Xiang lying next to him. He felt terrible. However, this situation did not last long. The wine was good, and people couldn't help but drink. The two bodyguards first drank a bottle of Lafite wine, and then a bottle of Maotai. White wine mixed with red wine was more intoxicating. It took only half an hour before the two bodyguards fell asleep on the sofa. Charlotte carefully climbed out from under the bed. Qin Xiang couldn't see the situation outside the bed. He was a little worried and hesitated. He didn't climb out until Charlotte climbed out of the bed and there was no movement. Huang Yihu's two bodyguards were lying on the sofa and sleeping soundly. There were empty bottles of Lafite wine and Maotai on the coffee table. Their snoring was also very loud, and there was no sign of them waking up. Charlotte made a gesture to Qin Xiang and then tiptoed out of the lounge. Out of the lounge, Charlotte went straight to Huang Yihu's desk. "What are you doing?" Qin Xiang nervously pulled Charlotte's hand and whispered, "You can guess the password of the electronic lock, but you can't guess the rotary lock. If you are wrong, it will sound the alarm. The two guys in the lounge must be carrying guns." Charlotte said, "Don't you want to get rid of Huang Yihu's control? If we miss this opportunity, I'm afraid we won't have a chance to steal what we want again." Qin Xiang let go of his hand. Of course, he wanted to steal the video evidence that Huang Yihu used to threaten him, but he knew the performance of the safe imported from Germany very well. The rotary lock's password was the key to open the entire safe. The electronic lock, just now, was actually unlocking the safe's permission to open mode. Once the rotary lock's password was wrong, the safe would automatically sound the alarm. This was the reason why he stopped Charlotte from trying, but Charlotte's determination and confidence made him confused. Could Charlotte really open the safe? Charlotte squatted down, opened the wooden cabinet door of the desk, and then grabbed the rotary lock's button. At this moment, his left eye twitched slightly, and his vision was like a chisel drilling into the alloy drill button. The drill button had locking teeth, and it slowly turned under his hand. Soon, it came to a groove and bit it. Then, he turned the knob and went to the next groove, biting it. In this way, after 3 operations, there was a click sound in the safe. It was opened. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte, dumbfounded, as if she was looking at a monster. It must be known that such a safe imported from Germany with the Bustling brand, not to mention him, even his most admired master couldn't open it. But Charlotte opened it so easily, without even using his stethoscope. Charlotte didn't notice Qin Xiang's surprised reaction. He reached out and opened the safe's door. The contents of the safe were presented in front of him. He took out the leather notebook, portable hard disk, and some paper documents, leaving only foreign currency, gold bars, and Huang Yihu's ID. Charlotte put these things in his backpack and then closed the safe's door. Then he got up and walked to the window. Qin Xiang came back to her senses and followed Charlotte's footsteps to the window. The two returned to the ground and then climbed over the wall to leave the New Moon Real Estate Company. In the car, Qin Xiang could no longer hold back the surprise and curiosity in her heart. She said aloud, "Lei, what happened just now? How could you open the Bustling brand safe in such a short time?" Charlotte said, "I'll tell you later." He started the engine and drove the Great Wall H6 slowly out of the alley. "No, you must tell me." Charlotte said, "I'll tell you later." Qin Xiang rolled her eyes at Charlotte with dissatisfaction. "Even if you don't tell me, I know that you are actually a hidden thief, aren't you?" Charlotte hadn't thought about how to explain what had just happened, but Qin Xiang took the initiative to think about it. He was too lazy to think about a story, so he nodded. "Well, since you saw through it, I don't need to hide it from you. But You have to help me keep this secret." "I knew it." Qin Xiang punched Charlotte. "You hit it really well." Charlotte smiled bitterly in his heart. After the car drove out of the alley, he stepped on the accelerator, and the car quickly rushed into the main road, rushing forward. Chapter 95. Back home, Charlotte connected his old Lenovo desktop to the portable hard drive and saw what was stored in it. There were many videos stored in the portable hard drive, most of which were videos of Huang Yihu or Li Yulan bribing certain officials. There were many ways to bribe people. Some gave money directly, and some gave antiques, cultural relics, and famous paintings. Some arranged for young women to sleep with them, and the content was unbearable. Charlotte quickly found the original video that Huang Yihu used to threaten Qin Xiang. In the video, Qin Xiang sneaked into a gold shop. Although his face was covered, it was easy to recognize him from the video. He liked to wear feminine clothes, especially tight pants that outlined the curve of his buttocks. It really made people speechless. Deleted. Qin Xiang was very excited. That bastard can no longer threaten me in the future. Charlotte deleted the video file and said, "Look at these videos and sort out a list for me. Also, copy these videos to my computer. This portable hard drive has to be destroyed." Qin Xiang said in surprise, "Why do you want to destroy such an important thing?" Charlotte said, "Technology is very advanced now. Even if we delete the video that Huang Yihu used to threaten you, the police technicians can still repair the video through software. Do you want to go to jail?" Qin Xiang was stunned for a moment, and then smiled. "I didn't think of that. Okay, I'll do as you say." It was not difficult to sort out a list from the videos on the portable hard drive. Whether it was Huang Yihu or Li Yulan, the couple would call each other's official title. With these official titles, as long as they looked up the official's information on the government's official website, they could find the official's information. Qin Xiang sorted out the list of the bribed officials. Charlotte looked through the paper documents that he had stolen. Most of the paper documents he had brought back were commercial contracts and engineering contracts, as well as a few engineering acceptance reports. The commercial contracts and engineering contracts looked normal, but the engineering acceptance reports were problematic. There were all kinds of quality problems in the acceptance reports, such as the use of inferior materials, substandard steel, and so on. There were great safety risks. He took these acceptance reports and compared them with several construction contracts. As a result, all of them matched up. The New Moon Real Estate Company under the name of Huang Yihu used inferior materials to build buildings, but sold them to the public at a high price. These engineering acceptance reports were locked in a safe. He must have bribed them. The reason he kept these test reports was probably to blackmail the officials who had received bribes from him. With these engineering acceptance reports, you can wait to jump off a building. The corners of Xia Lei's mouth curled into a sneer. He picked up the notebook with a leather cover and flipped it open. With one look, Charlotte was shocked by the content inside. This notebook was a dark ledger in the true sense. It recorded every money he had earned from the underworld and how he had laundered it. Some of these funds were from underground casinos, some were protection fees from a certain market, and some were funds from pornographic places. Other than drugs, he had touched anything and dared to do anything. These funds were collected one by one and then laundered through his legal businesses, becoming his legitimate income. The ledger also recorded the names of some officials he had bribed, their positions, and the number of times, as well as the amount and the specific date of the bribe. Now it seemed that the bribery video on the portable hard drive was only a part of it. The ledger recorded the early bribe records, and the portable hard drive recorded the bribe records of the past 2 years. Times were changing, and the means by which Huang Yihu kept evidence and blackmail also kept up with the times and changed. Charlotte originally thought that there might be something about Huang Yihu and the Gu family in the notebook, but he didn't find anything related to the Gu family until he read the whole notebook. "Lazy, I've made the list," Qin Xiang said to Charlotte. "Have you copied the videos?" Charlotte asked. Qin Xiang said they've all been copied. "What are you going to do next?" Charlotte went to the computer desk and said, "Let me do it." Qin Xiang got up and let him sit down. Charlotte sat in front of the computer desk, selected a few videos with healthy content, and uploaded them to several video websites. The names of the videos were in the first person. I want to report so-and-so. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte's operation, frowned, and said, I'm afraid no one will believe that Huang Yihu reported it himself, right? Charlotte smiled and said, just wait and see. Then, he took a pen and paper and began to write a report letter. Looking at the words written by Charlotte on the paper, Qin Xiang quickly saw the clues. She was surprised and said, why is your handwriting the same as Huang Yihu's? This is impossible. I've seen Huang Yihu's handwriting. This is completely Huang Yihu's handwriting. Charlotte continued to write the report letter. In the letter, Huang Yihu claimed that he was being persecuted by a big shot and his life was in danger. He asked the prosecution to provide personal protection. Once he got personal protection, he would become a tainted witness for the prosecution and expose all the criminal materials in his hands. Then, Charlotte copied some of the contents of the notebook in the report letter. Do you want the police to arrest him? Qin Xiang asked. Charlotte shook his head. The police must want to arrest him, but some people don't. You mean the officials who were reported? They can't do anything to Huang Yihu, Qin Xiang said. Charlotte smiled. Huang Yihu is the Gu family's dog. This dog has started to bite people. Who do you think will be the first to act? You mean? Qin Xiang's mouth opened wide. The Gu family. Charlotte put the report letter in an envelope. Let's wait and see. Qin Xiang couldn't wait and said, I'll send the letter now. Charlotte handed him the envelope and said, after sending the letter, find a place to hide. It's best not to show up for a few days. Even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered, let alone a wolf like Huang Yihu. Qin Xiang nodded. You also have to be careful. The next morning, Charlotte knocked on Jiang Rui's door. Before he could open his mouth to speak, Jiang Rui grabbed his hand and dragged him to the kitchen. What are you doing? Charlotte had a chance to speak after entering her house. Jiang Rui smiled sweetly. Brother Lazy, you came at the right time. Help me cook 2 dishes. Charlotte slapped the leather notebook in his hand on her head. Am I your chef? It's early in the morning, and you want me to cook for you? I'm here to talk business with you. Jiang Rui touched her head and stared at Charlotte. You hit me like this. You don't know how to be gentle with me at all. What business? If you don't say it clearly, I'll crush you to death. Charlotte said. Of course, it's a very important matter. Look at the contents of this notebook. You'll know when you see it. This is a free opportunity for you to make a great contribution. With that, he put the leather notebook and a USB into Jiang Rui's hands. The flash drive contained a bribery video copied from the portable hard drive. Jiang Rui opened the notebook and looked at it. Her cherry mouth was wide open. Oh my God. Section Chief Lee of the Development Bureau. The day before yesterday, I met him in an exhibition. He was dressed very simply and only ate his meals. At that time, I thought that this person must be an honest and upright official. I didn't expect that this guy actually accepted a 2 million bribe from Huang Yihu. There's more. Keep watching. Charlotte said. Jiang Rui looked at it while talking nonstop. She looked very excited. Charlotte rubbed his ears and then walked to her kitchen. Forget it. I'll help you cook. Charlotte cooked a tomato, scrambled egg, and a potato in the kitchen. Then he took the 2 dishes to the dining room. At this time, Jiang Rui had finished reading the leather notebook and was watching the video on a USB on a laptop. She didn't know what was going on. The first video she chose was the video of Huang Yihu using a woman to bribe. When the video was played, the woman's voice echoed in her living room. Jiang Rui's pink face suddenly turned red. You're a bad guy. How can you let me watch such a video so early in the morning? Xiao Lei said. You were the one who opened it, okay? There are other videos in it. You can watch another one. Jiang Rui didn't change the video. Instead, she put down a laptop and walked to the dining table. She stared at Charlotte and said, serve rice. The woman's voice was still echoing, and it was getting more and more intense. It was undeniable that the woman Huang Yihu found was very good in that aspect. Just her voice could make people excited. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was that in such a voice, Chief Jiang actually asked him to serve her rice. Serve rice. Jiang Rui urged again. Hurry up. I'm hungry. Charlotte was speechless. He filled a bowl of rice for Jiang Rui. Jiang Rui calmly went to the dining table and ate. The woman's voice was like a bird outside the window. It didn't affect her at all. Charlotte also filled a bowl of rice and sat opposite Jiang Rui to eat. He didn't eat before he came. It was okay to eat at Jiang Rui's place. Not to mention, he also cooked. After eating, I'll bring people to catch Huang Yihu, Jiang Rui said while eating. That guy is actually the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Bah, he's a scumbag. Charlotte said, I gave you such a great opportunity to make a contribution this time. How are you going to thank me? Jiang Rui looked at Charlotte with a smile. You are a bad guy. You let me watch that video early in the morning. You even said how to thank you. What are you hinting at? Just pretend I didn't say anything. Charlotte quickly buried his head in the rice. Jiang Rui took off the slippers on her feet. She quietly stretched forward and put her feet wrapped in silk stockings on Charlotte's instep. Charlotte was slightly stiff. What are you doing? Jiang Rui smiled. Lazy, be honest. What do you want? She put her feet in silk stockings on his instep and moved it. She even asked him what he wanted to do. Perhaps only Jiang Rui could say such words to Charlotte. At that moment, Charlotte suddenly couldn't control his eyes. Jiang Rui, who was sitting opposite, suddenly turned pale. Tell me, what do you want? Charlotte couldn't bear it anymore. He hurriedly looked away and left. As he walked, he said, if you want to catch Huang Yihu, you can bring your police to my construction site later. Remember, bring a gun. Huang Yihu's bodyguards have guns. Hey, can you come back and wash the dishes before you leave? Jiang Rui shouted from behind. After this sentence, Charlotte was already outside the door. Chapter 96. The morning sun was shining brightly, and the construction site of Lima Manufacturing Company was bustling with activity. The grassroots team, recruited by Liang Xiao from the Polytechnic Institute, was busy measuring the land and drawing the drawings. The Forester Company's transport fleet and engineering team had also arrived. Trucks of new building materials entered the site, and the engineering team began to carry out the preliminary preparation work. If everything went well, a factory would appear on this land in a month, and the gilded signboard of Lima Manufacturing Company would be hung on the gate of the factory. Looking at the busy scene, Charlotte felt a trace of inexplicable sadness in his heart. He said softly, Shaoan, I really wish you could be here to see it. If you stay here for a few more days, I'll soon avenge you. Huang Yihu is finished. I promise you. Ma Shaoan certainly couldn't hear his voice, but if he could, he would be happy. Liang Xiao walked around the construction site with Guan Lingshan and Yin Hao, and the three of them talked about the details of the blueprint design. Liang Xiao didn't know that her employee had been beaten until she came to the construction site. She was angry for a while, but she soon devoted herself to the work. Charlotte walked over to the three of them, and their conversation fell into his ears. Guan Lingshan said, Miss Liang, I suggest building the company's office building on the side of the road, so that customers can see our office building when they come. In-Hao said, I suggest building the warehouse on the side of the road, so that it's convenient for raw materials to come in and finished products to go out. We can also save a little on the cost of transportation. Liang Xiao said, What you said makes sense. I have to ask for President Xia's opinion. Charlotte just walked over and said with a smile, I have a different idea from you. Only then did the three of them notice that Charlotte had come over. Guan Lingshan and In-Hao politely called him President Xia. Liang Xiao smiled at Charlotte. Her smile was kind and sweet. What's your different idea? Charlotte said, My idea is that we don't need such a large piece of land for the time being. Liang Xiao, Guan Lingshan, and In-Hao all looked at Charlotte curiously, not understanding what he meant. Charlotte smiled. I've been observing our land this morning. Look, after this road, there's a large community. The traffic is convenient, and there's a lot of people. Why don't we use the land adjacent to the road? We can build a building here. Instead of using it as an office, we can use it to open a large supermarket. This way, we can earn a lot of money a year. Open a supermarket? Liang Xiao looked at Charlotte in surprise. She couldn't believe that this idea came from Charlotte. Guan Lingshan and Yi Hao were also stunned. They couldn't believe that Charlotte would have such an idea. Charlotte said with a smile, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Huang Yihu had racked his brains to get this piece of land. Wasn't it because of its high value? I bought this piece of land. Although the government forbade me from reselling or renting it, they didn't restrict how I can use it. I'll empty a piece of land to build a supermarket. We don't need to pay rent, and our goods can be sold at a lower price. Do you think that no one will come to our supermarket to buy things? Don't underestimate the profit of a supermarket. If we ship a lot of goods every day, it won't be a problem for us to earn tens of millions a year. This income is like picking it up for free. What if we don't want it? It's also good to use this money to improve the welfare of our employees. Building a supermarket in the best location of this piece of land seemed to be a random idea, but it was also a choice that Charlotte had no choice but to make. Opening a company was different from opening a studio. He didn't need to buy insurance and housing funds for his employees, but after opening a company, each of his employees would have to buy insurance and housing funds, which was a huge expense. The company was newly built and had hundreds of employees. It required a huge amount of expenses every day. If there was a slight shortage of funds, he would be in an awkward situation. But why not open a large supermarket in the best location of the port? The income from the supermarket could relieve the pressure in this aspect. Why not? Liang Xiao suddenly laughed. I really didn't think of that. This is a great idea. This piece of land is a waste to build a factory. If we don't make use of its value, we will be really stupid. Okay, I agree to build a supermarket. But the supermarket can be built on 3 floors, 1 underground and 2 above ground. Our office building will be on the 3rd and 4th floors. What do you think? Guan Lingshan interrupted. In this way, we can also save money on building the office building. Yihao also said excitedly, well, we only need to build a special passage. We can go to the 3rd and 4th floors from the factory. We don't need to go through the supermarket. The people from the supermarket can't enter our office area, so it won't affect our work. Charlotte said with a smile. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and finish the blueprint. Let's go now. Guan Lingshan and Yihao said at the same time. They found that they had said the same thing, so they looked at each other and smiled, a little embarrassed. After Guan Lingshan and Yihao left, Liang Xiao said, You want to open a supermarket. Who will manage it? Charlotte said, I have already found a person. You should be able to do it. Who? Liang Xiao asked. Just then, a Yamaha came roaring down the road and stopped abruptly on the side of the road. A young man wearing tight leather shorts and a white embroidered t-shirt got out of the car. He had a beautiful face, a well-proportioned figure, and a perfectly round butt. He had a strong demonic aura. He was the person Xia Lei wanted to mention, Qin Xiang. When Qin Xiang appeared, many people couldn't help but look at him. Some people even whispered to each other. Qin Xiang seemed to have long been used to people's strange looks. He didn't care at all and walked calmly to Charlotte and Liang Xiao. It was the first time that Liang Xiao had seen Qin Xiang. She couldn't help but ask in a low voice, Who is this? Is he your friend? Charlotte said, His name is Qin Xiang. He is the person I wanted to tell you about. He is the person who manages the supermarket for us. Liang Xiao was dumbfounded. She looked at Charlotte in a strange way. Charlotte went up and whispered, Didn't I tell you to hide for a few days? Qin Xiang said, I thought about it. Huang Yihu has nothing to threaten me with. Why should I hide from him? Besides, he can't find me, but he can find you. He won't let himself be caught. He is in danger now. I have to be with you. One more person around you will be safer. Xia Lei sighed. All right, since you're already here, you might as well stay. Let me introduce you. This is my senior sister, Liang Xiao. A charming smile suddenly appeared on Qin Xiang's face. She said coquettishly, Oh, Miss Liang is so beautiful. Liang Xiao felt strange, but she still squeezed out a smile. Then she shook hands with Qin Xiang and said, Hello, little Mr. Qin. She almost said Miss Qin. Qin Xiang was too much like a woman, but she was not a real woman. Qin Xiang was a little surprised and said, Miss Liang, do you know me? Liang Xiao said, well, we were talking about you just now. Lazy wants to build a large supermarket, and then he wants you to help him manage it. Qin Xiang looked at Charlotte in surprise and asked, what's going on? Charlotte told her what he just thought, and then said, wasn't your hair salon burned? Anyway, you have nowhere to go. Come and help me. Qin Xiang smiled and said, well, it's good to change the environment. I'll try. Miss Liang, Guan Lingshan cried, can you come here? There is something I need you to confirm. Liang Xiao said, I'll go and have a look. You talk. Qin Xiang said very gently, well, Miss Liang, see you later. Then he waved his hand. His hand was white and tender. Liang Xiao turned around and left. After 2 steps, she muttered, oh my God, I can't stand it. Lazy can't be that kind of person. Can he? No. Lazy is so sensitive when we practice martial arts. That kind of change is so obvious. I saw it several times. He is normal. After Liang Xiao left, Charlotte said, have you sent the report letter? Qin Xiang said, I made a few copies of the report letter you wrote and sent them to the anti-corruption departments of the province and city. I also sent them to 2 media outlets. Speaking of this, he laughed and said, also, I want to tell you that the video you posted on the internet has been spread. Now the number of views has exceeded 200,000, and there are thousands of comments. I believe that there will be news websites reporting it soon. Charlotte also smiled. This time, I'm afraid that Huang Yihu is really finished. Qin Xiang said, I'm afraid he never dreamed that the safe he imported from Germany would be opened by you. He also never thought that you were a powerful thief. Charlotte was never a thief, but he could open safes that even a thief couldn't open. So it was not an exaggeration for Qin Xiang to say that he was a thief. Just then, Charlotte's eyes suddenly moved to the direction of the road. A black Maybach business car was parked on the side of the road about 500 meters away. Although separated by such a long distance, he still saw Huang Yihu sitting in the driver's seat. Huang Yihu finally appeared. Charlotte was not surprised that Huang Yihu appeared at this time. Just when Charlotte saw Huang Yihu, 5 vans drove up from behind the black Maybach business car. They weren't fast, and there were 7 people in each van. Although the van was covered with iron, Charlotte could still see the situation in the van. Those people were Huang Yihu's men, and they were all holding machetes, baseball bats, and other weapons. Charlotte's eyes locked on the last van. There were 7 people in the previous vans, but there were only 4 people in this van. They were all Huang Yihu's bodyguards. They were all armed with guns. Go! Charlotte looked away and pushed Qin Xiang. Huang Yihu is here with his men. Qin Xiang said in surprise, where? But Charlotte didn't have time to explain to her. He shouted, Xiao, take our men and leave. Only then did Qin Xiang notice the 5 vans that were approaching. His face suddenly turned pale. Liang Xiao didn't understand what was going on. She asked, what are you doing? Why are you leaving? Charlotte said anxiously, Huang Yihu is here with his men. At this moment, the 5 vans stopped. The doors opened, and a group of fierce-looking young men rushed over with machetes and other weapons. Chapter 97. In the black Maybach sedan, Li Yulan looked worried. I'm very uneasy. You'd better call your men back. Let's go abroad and hide for a while. I don't know what will happen if they go there. If someone dies, we won't be able to hide even if we want to. Since when did you become so timid? Huang Yihu sneered. Hide? I didn't even think about hiding. I've been fighting on the streets since I was born. What kind of storms have I not seen? But it's different this time. The evidence has been exposed on the internet. The police will intervene sooner or later, said Li Yulan. What are you afraid of? Huang Yihu said indifferently. Have you forgotten who's behind us? If they want to touch me, the Gu family must agree. I've done a lot of dirty things for the Gu family all these years. They will definitely protect me. Isn't it just some evidence of bribery? What's the big deal? As long as we catch Charlotte and Qin Xiang, I can get the evidence back. We can even settle this matter without the Gu family coming forward. Li Yulan let out a sigh, still looking restless. Huang Yihu picked up the binoculars on the bridge and looked at the construction site. On the construction site, Charlotte called his men to run away, but none of them left. Instead, they picked up sticks and stones and ran toward Charlotte. The only ones who escaped were the Forrester New Building Materials Company's people. As soon as Huang Yihu's men appeared, they ran away in panic. Originally, Charlotte's intention was to let his men escape. He ran in the opposite direction to lead Huang Yihu's men away. But none of his men escaped, so he couldn't run away. "What are you doing?" Charlotte said with a wry smile. "I told you to run, but you came back." Holding a small wooden stick, Guan Lingshan adjusted the new glasses on the bridge of her nose and said nervously, "We were not afraid of them." Yin Hao, Han Bo, and the others also nodded. They were very nervous and scared, but they didn't retreat. Liang Xiao didn't say anything. She just reached out and patted Charlotte's shoulder. Although she didn't say anything, this action meant that she wanted to fight alongside him. With his plan disrupted, Charlotte couldn't help but look in the direction of the intersection. Why hasn't Jiang Rui appeared yet? "Charlotte, get out here." A young man with dyed golden hair pointed at Charlotte with a machete in his hand and roared. Charlotte glanced at the golden-haired young man before shifting his gaze to Huang Yihu's 4 bodyguards. The 4 bodyguards split into 2 groups, one on the left and one on the right. The fact that they had guns on them was what worried and scared him. If it weren't for Huang Yihu's 4 bodyguard with guns, he and Liang Xiao would be able to defeat these young men in less than 10 minutes. Huang Xia stepped forward and was ready to fight. Charlotte grabbed her and whispered, "Be careful. The 4 people on the left and right are Huang Yihu's bodyguards. They all have guns." With guns, Liang Xiao suddenly became nervous. Charlotte said, "Don't move. Stall for time and wait for Jiang Rui to bring people here." Liang Xiao nodded. "Mother asterisk her. Are you scared?" The golden-haired young man scolded. "You have a bad mouth." Qin Xiang put one hand on her waist and pointed at the young man's nose with the other. "How could your mother give birth to you if she didn't have a D***CK? Charlotte grabbed Liang Xiao, but he ignored Qin Xiang. This sentence was like a bucket of cold water poured into a pot of oil, and it suddenly exploded. "Mother asterisk her. How dare you be arrogant? Beat him." The golden-haired young man waved his machete and rushed to Qin Xiang. He would cut whoever scolded him. Before Qin Xiang could attack or dodge, Charlotte suddenly kicked the golden-haired young man's lower abdomen. The guy screamed and flew back 2 steps before falling heavily to the ground. Huang Yihu's 4 bodyguards suddenly came over. They pulled out their guns almost at the same time and pointed at Charlotte's head. As soon as the guns appeared, the scene that was about to enter a group fight suddenly stopped. "Come with us," a bodyguard said coldly. "Where are we going?" Charlotte looked calm on the surface, but he was already very nervous. "Nonsense. If I ask you to go, then go. Otherwise, I will shoot you." A bodyguard stepped forward and grabbed Charlotte's hand, ready to take him away. Another bodyguard stepped forward and grabbed Qin Xiang's hand. Charlotte and Qin Xiang didn't dare to move because the other 2 bodyguards kept pointing their guns at them. "What do you want to do?" Liang Xiao stood in front of Charlotte. "Mother asterisk her. Courting death." A bodyguard suddenly moved his gun to Liang Xiao. Bang! Suddenly there was a gunshot. All eyes gathered on Liang Xiao at the same time. At the moment when the gunshot sounded, almost everyone thought that Liang Xiao was shot. However, it was Huang Yihu's bodyguard who fell. A bullet hit the head of the bodyguard who was about to shoot Liang Xiao. It was a headshot. The bodyguard who was shot in the head fell straight to the ground. He didn't know who killed him until he died. The whole scene seemed to be blown by a cold wind that was dozens of degrees below zero, and it suddenly froze. Charlotte was the first to come back to his senses. His eyes moved to the direction where the bullet came from. He saw a woman in a trench coat, wearing sunglasses and holding a gun, just like a cold-faced female killer in a Hollywood shootout. Jiang Rui didn't appear, but Long Bing did. Charlotte suddenly felt that he might not be able to forget the scene of her striding over and killing one person with each step for the rest of his life. Mother asterisk her. A bodyguard also found Long Bing. He suddenly adjusted his gun and was ready to shoot Long Bing. Bang! Before the bodyguard could turn his gun around, a bullet pierced through his forehead. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. It was another headshot. Bang! The third gunshot came 5 seconds after the second gunshot. The bodyguard who pointed the gun at Charlotte's head also fell to the ground. There was a bullet hole in his forehead, but there was a big hole in the back of his head. In the blink of an eye, 3 of Huang Yihu's 4 bodyguards were dead. The remaining one threw away the gun in his hand and knelt on the ground. Dozens of Huang Yihu's men were dumbfounded. The arrogance just now was completely gone. They stood in the same place like wooden stakes, not daring to move, and all of them broke out in a cold sweat. Whether it was Huang Yihu's bodyguards or Huang Yihu's men, they usually bullied the weak and feared the strong. They were more ruthless than anyone when it came to ordinary people. That was because they believed that no one could do anything to them. Now, a woman came out of nowhere and killed 3 of them in the blink of an eye. They had never seen such an imposing manner and such thunderous methods. A young man suddenly threw away the machete in his hand, turned around, and ran to the van parked on the side of the road. Bang! Before he could run more than 10 meters, there was a gunshot. A bullet flew over and hit him in the thigh, throwing him to the ground. Some of the young men who were about to run were instantly scared out of their wits. No one dared to run. Even if they wanted to run, could they outrun a bullet? Long Bing bellowed, "All of you get down." With a crash, other than Xia Lei's people, everyone else was lying on the ground. A few hundred meters away, in a black Maybach commercial sedan, Huang Yihu threw the binoculars in his hand and cursed, "Damn it! Where did that woman come from? How dare she open fire and kill people? Does she have any respect for the law? Hubby, let's go." Li Yulan said anxiously, "Our men have been caught by that woman. If she knows we are here, she will definitely chase after us. I must find out who she is. She's finished." Huang Yihu shouted, but his hands were not slow. He started the engine and drove the car into the driveway, ready to turn around and leave. Suddenly, 2 police cars came from behind and cut off the black Maybach's escape route. The black Maybach changed direction and was about to escape in the other direction, but as soon as it turned around, 2 police cars came from the other direction and surrounded it. The door of one of the police cars opened, and Jiang Rui jumped out from the passenger seat. She used the car door as cover and shouted, "You are surrounded. Put down your weapon and surrender." A police officer who got out of the car after her patted Jiang Rui's arm and said softly, "Chief, your gun's safety is off." Jiang Rui suddenly looked embarrassed. She hurriedly opened the safety of the gun and shouted fiercely, "Huang Yihu, you are under arrest. Get out of the car." Huang Yihu got out of the car. Although he raised his hands, his expression was full of disdain. He spat on the ground and said, "Arrest me? Humph! What crime are you using to arrest me? Bribery? Let me tell you, there are a lot of people who want to protect me. None of you can do anything to me." Li Yulan also got out of the car. Her face was pale, and she looked very nervous. After all, she was just a woman. No matter how bold she was, she couldn't be much. 2 police officers walked up and handcuffed Huang Yihu and Li Yulan. "Chief, who is that woman?" The police officer who reminded Jiang Rui that the safety was off asked curiously, "We have so many people to deal with 2 people, but she is dealing with dozens of people alone." Jiang Rui said angrily, "I don't even have the rank to ask. What right do you have to ask? Come with me." A group of police officers followed Jiang Rui to the Lima Manufacturing Company's construction site. Huang Yihu and Li Yulan were also pushed forward. The atmosphere at the construction site was still cold. The people on Charlotte's side all looked at Long Bing nervously. They were also guessing her identity in their hearts. Charlotte walked over to Long Bing and asked tentatively, "How did you know?" Long Bing said lightly, "I am investigating you. Have you forgotten?" Charlotte smiled bitterly. With Long Bing's ability, it was not surprising that she knew about it. He even suspected that Long Bing knew that he and Qin Xiang went to the New Moon Real Estate Company to steal things. However, he was not worried about this. If Long Bing wanted to stop him, she would have stopped him at that time. She didn't need to wait until now. Moreover, she had killed 3 people for him. Thank you. Charlotte braced himself and said, I will go to your house tonight to find you. Long Bing put away her gun and turned to leave. Charlotte had long been used to her style. He said, Come early. I will cook a few dishes and treat you to dinner. Long Bing's footsteps paused slightly. She did not say anything, but just nodded. Miss Long, Jiang Rui, who led the team to the construction site, shouted from afar. She wanted to talk to Long Bing, but Long Bing did not even look at her. She quickened her pace and left. Jiang Rui sighed and said helplessly, Big sis, you've killed someone and you're leaving just like that. Don't you know that I'm embarrassed? She only dared to say this quietly here. Chapter 98. Hurry up and go. At the construction site, a police officer pushed Huang Yihu again. Huang Yihu turned back and glared at the police officer. Boy, I remember your face. If you push me again, before Huang Yihu could finish his words, Jiang Rui slapped the back of Huang Yihu's head. Huang Yihu, you're already in this situation and you still dare to threaten the people's police. Did you eat a leopard's guts? If you keep talking nonsense, I'll add the crime of intimidating the police to your charge. Huang Yihu glared at Jiang Rui, but this time his mouth was not cheap. Jiang Rui pushed Huang Yihu, and Huang Yihu staggered forward. In front of him, his men were all lying on the ground. 3 of the 4 bodyguards were dead, and the remaining one was still kneeling on the ground, not daring to move. Long Bing shot 3 and left 1 alive. The purpose was very simple. That was to leave 1 alive for Jiang Rui to reveal more of Huang Yihu's crimes. Why did you only come now? Charlotte complained. Jiang Rui rolled her eyes at Charlotte. You just saw it. This is her arrangement. She's in charge of this side, and I'm in charge of catching Huang Yihu. If you want to complain, go to her. Why are you complaining to me? Forget it. Can you lend me Huang Yihu for a few minutes? Charlotte said, I want to talk to him alone. Jiang Rui hesitated, pulled Charlotte to the side, and asked in his ear, What do you want to do? Beat him up? This is against the rules. Charlotte said, I have a bet with Huang Yihu. If I get this piece of land, he will kneel and kowtow to Ma Shaoan 3 times. Ma Shaoan was killed by Huang Yihu. I just want to comfort Shaoan's soul in heaven. Jiang Rui said, Well, I'll give you a few minutes, but don't hit him. Well, even if you hit him, don't hit his face. Do you understand? Charlotte patted Jiang Rui's shoulder. Thank you. What are you thanking me for? Jiang Rui said, Shaoan is also my friend. If I can comfort him and make him happy, so what if I'm criticized? 2 minutes later, Charlotte took Huang Yihu to the place where the building materials were piled up. The tall pile of building materials blocked the view of the outside, and the people outside couldn't see the situation inside at all. What do you want? Huang Yihu was a little nervous, but his mouth was very tough. If I have a scar on my body, you and that policewoman won't be able to bear the consequences. I will ask the best lawyer in the country to sue you. Charlotte didn't speak. Instead, he went around Huang Yihu and picked up a wooden board in front of him. Then he wrote Ma Shaoan's tomb on the board with a marker. After he finished writing, he forcefully inserted the wooden board in front of Huang Yihu. Huang Yihu understood what Xia Lei was trying to do when he saw the words Ma Shaoan's grave on the wooden board. A mocking smile appeared in the corners of his mouth. Are you still hung up on that bet? You want me to kneel down and kowtow? You're dreaming. I, Huang Yihu, am an indomitable spirit and have never knelt before anyone. Charlotte stepped forward and punched Huang Yihu in the stomach. Huang Yihu let out a muffled groan and bent down. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were like a provoked wild beast. There was only fierce hatred, no fear. Bah! Huang Yihu spat a mouthful of blood on the ground. You know who I am. They won't let anything happen to me. I'll be out soon. At that time, you'll regret what you're doing now. Charlotte punched Huang Yihu in the stomach again. Huang Yihu clutched his stomach. His expression was very painful, but his mouth clamored. If you have the guts, then kill me. Come on, kill me. Charlotte punched Huang Yihu in the cheek. Huang Yihu closed his eyes and didn't dodge. Charlotte's fist stopped only a centimeter away from Huang Yihu's head. He suddenly smiled. You're still a man. I won't hit you. But I want to tell you, if you don't kneel down and kowtow to my friend, I'll go find your son. Don't you still have a son in junior high school? I don't need to do anything. I just need to tell your enemy the identity of your son. Naturally, someone will stand up for my friend. Don't you think so? You dare. Huang Yihu was like a wounded beast. Charlotte sneered. When you were still alive, you couldn't beat me. Do you think I'm afraid of you in prison? What kind of son do you want? Aren't you afraid that your son will suffer the retribution of your sins? I'll give you one last chance. Kneel down, kowtow to my friend, and then repent. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that you won't have a son to send you off. You. Huang Yihu's eyes were full of hatred. Charlotte said, It seems that you don't intend to kneel down. Well, I'll get justice from your son. Wait. Huang Yihu stopped Charlotte, who was about to leave. He froze for a moment, then suddenly knelt down in front of the wooden plaque with the words Ma Shaoan's grave written on it. He kowtowed 3 times and said, Ma Shaoan, I'm sorry. I've knelt down and kowtowed to you. I don't ask for your forgiveness. I just ask that you don't look for my son. These words were said to Ma Shaoan, but also to Huang Yihu. Charlotte looked up at the sky. The sky was blue, and the white clouds looked like a face. He felt that it was Ma Shaoan's smiling face. The police took away Huang Yihu and Li Yulan. Huang Yihu's men and the 3 bodies were also taken away. Charlotte also got into Jiang Rui's car and went to the police station to assist in the investigation. Seeing the police car drive away, the employees of Lima Manufacturing Company were still standing on the side of the road, unwilling to leave. Who's that woman in the trench coat? Inhao looked like he hadn't had enough. In his mind, he was still thinking about the scene where Long Bing shot and killed the 3 people in an instant. In one word, cool. Who knows? I advise you not to think about it. Han Bo said with a smile. That's Boss Xia's dish, not yours. What nonsense are you talking about? Liang Xiao interrupted the 2 men's conversation. Don't you have anything to do? Did you finish the blueprint? Han Bo and Inhao looked at each other, then went to work. Liang Xiao said to herself, That woman didn't even blink when she shot and killed. Who would dare to marry such a woman? Whoever marries her is a fool. In the police car, another woman looked at Charlotte with a smile. Lazy, I helped you so much this time. How are you going to thank me? Charlotte looked at Jiang Rui. I gave you such a big credit, and you still have the face to ask me to thank you. I heard that you're going to cook a few dishes to treat Miss Long to a meal. Is that true? Jiang Rui's mind was jumping. Can I come? Charlotte said, If you want to come, just come. It's just a matter of adding a set of chopsticks. Jiang Rui thought for a moment, then shook her head. Forget it. I don't want to make her unhappy. You can treat me another day, but I'll forget about it tonight. Charlotte said, I'll treat you another day. Stingy, no wonder you can't find a girlfriend. Jiang Rui glared at Charlotte. A policewoman sitting in the back suddenly said, Chief, red light. Jiang Rui slammed on the brakes, and everyone in the car was thrown forward. Some hit the headrest, some hit the glass, and some hit the glass when they arrived at the North District Police Station. Jiang Rui personally recorded Charlotte's statement. When it was over, Charlotte asked, Where's Huang Yihu being held? Jiang Rui said, In the interrogation room, a colleague is recording his statement. We're a little short of manpower after arresting so many people. Otherwise, I wouldn't personally record your statement. I feel disgusted when I see you. Charlotte said with a smile, Take me there. Jiang Rui rolled her eyes at Charlotte. Come with me. Charlotte followed Jiang Rui to an interrogation room. A police officer told Jiang Rui that Huang Yihu's lawyer had come to see him and was talking to Huang Yihu in the interrogation room. What are they talking about? Jiang Rui asked casually. The police officer said, That lawyer is very powerful. As soon as he came, he said that he wanted to exercise some right and asked us to turn off the surveillance. Without the surveillance, we don't know what they're talking about. Jiang Rui frowned. You won't turn it on if he doesn't let you? The police officer said, We secretly turned it on once, but the lawyer came out to negotiate. He even said that he wanted to call Director Sue, so we turned it off again and never turned it on again. Just as Jiang Rui was talking to her subordinate, Charlotte's left eye quietly entered another mode. The walls of the interrogation room were nothing in his line of sight, and he could see the situation in the interrogation room. The person talking to Huang Yihu in the interrogation room was a middle-aged man. He was dressed in a suit and looked very elegant. Charlotte had never seen this person appear beside Huang Yihu before, but Huang Yihu's expression was very respectful. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the Gu family had sent someone to save Huang Yihu? Charlotte's gaze locked onto their lips and used lip reading to interpret their conversation. "Please tell the old man to rest assured that I won't say a word," Huang Yihu said. "It's good that you think that way. The old man won't ignore you. You can stay in there for a while. It won't be long before you come out," the middle-aged man said. "Thank you, old man," Huang Yihu said respectfully. "The old man asked me to ask you, do you have any information related to the Gu family? Like the kind that was exposed by Charlotte?" the middle-aged man probed. Huang Yihu's expression immediately became nervous, and he said, "No, I really don't. I swear, I definitely don't have such a thing in my hands. What Charlotte exposed was evidence of me bribing some officials. I only left those evidence so that I could blackmail those officials next time," the middle-aged man said. "Now, the officials who have worked with you are all in danger. Some of them are also friends with the old man. With such a thing happening, the old man will be in a difficult position. Who will dare to work with us in the future?" I'm sorry, old man." Huang Yihu lowered his head. The middle-aged man said, "Let's forget about it this time. The old man will protect you. When you come out, do a good job and don't disappoint him again." Huang Yihu breathed a sigh of relief. "I will. Please tell the old man that I will do anything to repay him when I get out." A cold smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. "Okay, that's it. I have to go. Mr. Shi, take care." Huang Yihu stood up to see him off. The middle-aged man, called Mr. Shi, walked to the door. A word that no one else could hear came out of his mouth. "Fool." Charlotte retracted his gaze. The middle-aged man, called Mr. Shi, opened the door and walked out. When he saw Charlotte and Jiang Rui standing at the door, his expression changed slightly. However, he didn't say anything. He took his briefcase and left. Looking at Mr. Shi's back, Charlotte was puzzled. He called Huang Yihu a fool. Why is that? That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.